So welcome, everybody. We're within seconds here. I think everybody will be online here shortly. We'll be doing the Pledge of Allegiance. Welcome. I saw many of you as I look out there in downtown in the social district. It was beautiful weather this weekend. It was great to see everybody, thousands of people down there. So tonight we are gathered according to the policies and procedures from the governor's office on the Open Meetings Act. We are recording this, so when you come to make your comments, you're giving us the permission to replicate that. So you can go online and see what you said in the whole bit. So by you coming up here, giving us the permission to replicate that and to open it up for the public. When you come up, make sure you sign in, just line up on that side if you have comments tonight. So with that, I'd like everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance at this point. Thank you very much. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you. We have the scouts do that a lot. This is a special meeting. It seems like we meet about every Monday now, it seems, but we don't need them here on every one. They can enjoy their summer, can't they? So with that, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Clerk Smith, if you could do the roll call, please. Thank you.
Mayor Turnbull.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Morosky Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Carter.
Here.
Councilmember Janetti.
Here.
Councilmember Krenz.
Here. Great. We have a full quorum here tonight. It's great to have everybody here in the middle of summer. If you haven't been here, I see frequent flyers out there. I'm your guide as you walk through, and the agenda is right here where you come in. If we have public comment, that will be here in section 4. I usually don't take any public comment. I will answer.
It's a question related to the agenda.
I'll let you ask me very quickly.
I'm asking that on agenda item C, that I know that there were 2 motions, that there was a motion that was in the packet that went along with this.
Yes.
And the first thing to be decided was that there was going to be a vote on if you were going to put the advisory
Yes.
on the ballot. Okay, I would like that to be its own motion and the questions to be split into a separate motion.
So we will get to that on that area. So when I get to that area, we're going to talk in great detail about section C. So we will go forward. So that when we get to that, everybody will have a chance when I get to the different sections out there. So right now, we're going to go to section 3. Again, when you came in, there's a piece of paper there. It says where we're going through into the right, your left as you're going out. I'll just tell you where we're going. We're on section 3, approval of the agenda. We usually have a consent agenda. This is a special meeting tonight, so there's no consent agenda. Is that correct, George? Great. So there's only 3 things on the agenda, and we'll talk about those things shortly. But on the small distillery license for Great White Buffalo, also for Koji FG to Koji for the transfer of the license, and to place on the advisory questions on the November 5th date. We will talk about that. Those are the 3 things on the agenda. If you're here to talk about any of those 3 things, I will give you time. I will let you know when we're talking about that. If there's anything else, I will let you know under comments. So at this time, I would like approval of the agenda. Those are the 3 things that we're talking about right now.
So, yes, I have some suggested revisions to
Okay.
the agenda for amendment.
Okay.
My understanding is items A and B were not planned, but were on there for expediency.
Yes.
Yes, so that I just leave no touching that.
Absolutely.
I'm going to jump first to D.
Okay.
D actually, and this is a correction versus an update.
Okay.
It is listed as a singular memorandum and it should be memoranda.
Okay.
That was as of Friday when this agenda was constructed.
Sure.
Okay, so that, and also C, item C, I'm going to ask for that be removed from the agenda. My basis for removal is that when this agenda was constructed, we were first invited, were we able to attend a special council meeting, because our next one is August 5th. And the construction of having C on there was not part of the reason that we were asked to come to this special meeting. So because of that, it was a shock that it was there, and I believe it should be removed. I do have a secondary reason that it should be removed. but I would beg counsel not to press me on it because it is confidential and privileged.
So we have a motion, but you'd have to have a second on that motion for that to go forward on the
Mhm.
agenda. Do we have any second on that? Going once, going twice? Okay, do we have a motion to go forward with this agenda?
Well, can I ask for at least a minimum amendment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And I do have a chance later on,
Okay.
C, but it'd be memoranda versus memorandum, that correction, that's a
Oh,
correction.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
but that is an amendment.
Yes, okay,
Okay.
okay, yep. I would be satisfied with that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so I guess before we act on this, because we can have discussion before we act on it.
Yes,
I feel a bit compelled to, I beg the council not to push me for a second reason.
yes,
Okay, but the second reason is because the content of this item, portions of it are subject to to privilege, confidential information that when this document was constructed, which would have been Friday, I'm assuming.
yes.
There was no approval to do this as with the content of this. So that was based on confidential and privileged information. So that alone is a reason to remove it because of that item.
When you say it, what are you referring to? To put it
C.
on the agenda?
No, I'm asking again for removal and I'm getting of C and I'm saying that I beg not to have the second question of my reason. And now I'm giving you my second reason. My second reason is when this was constructed, assuming it was Friday, that it was, I have the evidence that it was constructed based on confidential and privileged information.
So with that, I will ask our city attorney, which has had discussions with our city manager, and others of
Okay.
what was going
And
on.
that,
Are you comfortable with this on the agenda, knowing what we talked about on closed door session?
Well, exactly. Yeah, we're not going to go into the content of
No,
what was
we are not.
discussed in the closed door session, but this agenda item was approved and drafted by the city manager, and I am comfortable that what's provided on the agenda is not subject to the privilege.
yeah, and I would ask for an exception on this item in terms of the city attorney's opinion because the text that revealed that a breach privilege was a text from him.
Say that again.
So, George is aware that, that I was shocked that this was on the agenda. George was aware of that shortly after the agenda was released. So that was aware, but then on Saturday, I received a text from our city attorney that revealed to me, and now the plain reading of it did anyway, when I looked at the agenda itself and the contents, but then it was confirmed by a text from the city attorney. So in this, it's a bit of a problem because it, like I said, this gets dicey, but it is, that was what revealed to me that it was in fact based on confidential and privileged information.
I say this is an opportunity. We were all there. We will talk in great detail how we will go forward and what was discussed and what wasn't discussed in that. I'm comfortable with
Mhm.
going forward with this. I'm looking for duly noted. I hear what you're saying.
Okay, I understand what I'm
Yep.
saying.
I do understand what you're saying.
Okay,
So to get it off the agenda, you would need a second.
Yes.
to consider the motion for the amended agenda.
Okay, and so once we get into closed session, can you discuss that with us?
Yes, I could.
So we'll talk in great detail when we would go in closed session and for what here in
Yeah.
a second. So we
But
could do
there,
that.
but it is C and D. So in order to do that, Laura, those would have to be reversed.
Okay.
So if
Fine.
council's will is to leave C on the agenda, at a minimum, it should be reversed.
So I would be open. I'd look for a motion for this to move the closed session first to, if you'd like to talk to us on that, and then we would come back. Would that be,
I mean, if that
Appropriate.
were me,
Would you come-
I'd
be
want
comfortable
to
with
be
that?
able to.
Well, I'm most comfortable with my first recommendation, but
Okay.
I will defer.
go
to
with D
this.
and then C?
I personally would appreciate having the conversation, us
Okay.
talking through what the concerns are. the implications of that and if that has any impact on our flexibility for the actual decision.
Okay.
'Cause-
And if after that, council chooses to not have that on the agenda, there's always the option for removal at that point in time when it comes up.
And you're all here for a good reason. We're going to hear all your input. So even though we're going to go to closed door, we will open that up for all your comments. So that is a great question. I'm going to try to be as efficient for all of you here tonight. So I will try to make sure we hear all your comments, maybe before we go to closed door. So I'm just letting you know. I know you're here.
You dragged
No,
us in here
no.
for this. I object.
We appreciate it.
Here, you're gonna go to a 2-hour closed session.
No, we are not going to.
We sit our asses down here waiting for you.
Policies and procedures. There's no jeering. There's no this. We appreciate that. We thank you so much, Jeff, for your comments on here. It is not. It is not. So with that,
Yeah, not this is typical.
we are the most transparent community and all. Okay. We will just hold on for a second. So I'm looking for a motion. We appreciate it. So I'm looking for a motion. If you would
Can I
like to
get
go.
just a,
D to
can I get a
C.
point of clarification on
Yeah,
that? Because I
I
feel
don't
like
want
there's
to
a lot of angst and I feel like we can solve that pretty
Yes,
quickly.
absolutely.
Is there anything that prevents us from having public comment, then going into closed session
No.
and then discussing what is currently item C?
So-
Absolutely not.
So when you're talking about public comment, well, there's two types. There's public comment for items not on the current agenda, whatever gets. And
Yes.
then there is comment on items on the agenda.
And what
If-
I'm suggesting is public comment for both. We structure it, obviously, public comment for any items not on the agenda will take place before we get in,
Mhm.
so that won't be an issue.
That's correct.
What I am suggesting and looking for guidance on, though I'm implying and that I think I know the answer there, is that we can basically have public comment, go into item C, have public comment, then make a motion to go into closed session, and then come back and have the discussion on the topic itself.
Ask the.
Yeah,
Is
Then
that
if anyone
okay?
wants to stay for
I
the
believe
vote,
we
they can.
can.
If they want to weigh in
City
before they
attorney?
can.
Yeah, of course, that's permissible.
Yep, absolutely. So,
I think that addresses the.
so we will
concerns that
get
were just
all your comments.
leveled.
We'll listen to them. We'll go to closed session. We'll come back. I don't think it's going to be an extremely long closed session, but I could be wrong on that. So with that, you will get all your comments up front. Remember, this is not clapping and jeering, Robert's rules. So we appreciate your comments. This is public comment, and most of you know this because you've been here. So I am open for a motion, and we are changing that around. I am open to change that order, and then we'll go.
So if I'm understanding properly, despite my preferences otherwise, I'll
Yes.
just summarize. I would prefer if another council member does, but I want to summarize where I think we're at.
And then those-
Okay, so I think the amended agenda would be item C. Fortunately, remains on the agenda, but goes to D. Item
Correct.
D goes to C.
Correct.
And under item D, memoranda is the correction.
Yep.
Okay,
And I rolled to that, yes.
but I'd like somebody else to make that motion because it's my preferred agenda, so.
So somebody can say so moved because you wrote that.
Motion to approve agenda as amended.
Do we have a second for
I
that?
will second that.
Is there any other discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, let's do a roll call vote on that, please.
Carter,
Yes.
Janetti,
Yes.
Krenz,
Yes.
Moraski Brown,
No,
Turnbull.
Yes, good. Motion passes. We have an agenda now. Thank goodness. So now we're to public comment. If you have public comment on the downtown, I will open that up on the downtown. So hold all those comments. If you have public comment on the liquor license that we're going to be transferring, hold that right now. I will bring that up. This is the time for anything other than those three: liquor license and the downtown social district, or the downtown street, putting it on the ballot. So if you have questions on that, I know sometimes people get confused. This is for everything else. So Mary, you are up for anything else. Everything else. That is correct.
Okay,
3 minutes.
I would just like to respectfully request that we have a future agenda item in the very near future about putting Zoom back into play. On February 28th, there was a new rule that the city posted about Zoom attendance. And my understanding and everybody else's was that we were going to postpone that conversation to another date. I recall a council meeting where Mayor Turnbull brought a resolution that was related to it, but there was not a full attendance that night of council, and he was waiting, I believe Councilman Carter was not in attendance until he came back. And it just disappeared off the radar. I have sent some information to City Manager Lahanis and the police chief. I don't know if it was reviewed and considered. There are a lot of new developments in Zoom at this point, and I would ask that a little research be done on the security improvements in Zoom Teams. And also, I would just like to remind you that the Open Meetings Act requires all decisions related to this public body to be made in a meeting of the public. So there needs to be a public discussion as required by the Open Meetings Act of your removal of Zoom. And also the vote has to be made in public too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Finally got it to work, sorry.
Again, on Zoom, if you hadn't, not that we're Q&A, a lot of activity in the metro area on Zoom, professionals coming in, disrupting meetings. 3 or 4 of the municipalities are being sued because they didn't say the right word at the time. We were talked to by the Michigan Municipal League, the Conference of Western Wayne, and others to right now, let's look at our policies and procedures. We were putting things on Zoom way before anybody else. So it's a great comment. And we're going to try to do that again. So it's under investigation. Absolutely. Thank you. Anybody else at this point in time?
Yeah, I have a question.
Good. Come right up to the mic. Come right up to the mic. And again, I know all of our parents said, try to be true, kind, and is it necessary? You know, try to do that as you come to the mic. And at Ford, they used to be a little harsher, be brief, be brilliant, and be gone. So, you know, let's get going. Go right ahead, sir.
70 Fairbrooke.
Absolutely.
My question is, last meeting, we brought up a bunch of questions we had about stuff at the downs, like the water, how much money you guys collected from that, and dust collects the
Yes.
reports and that. How do we ever get answers to this stuff? We can bring it up in here. You can't answer our questions. When we put questions out to the city council, how do we get answers to this, and how long do we have to wait? I want to know what how we go this, I want to find out what's going on. Nobody answers. So I'd like somebody to explain to me how we deal with these problems that we bring up and nobody gets back with us. Nobody gives us any information.
Great.
That's what,
We can't answer. This is public comment, but a lot of that data is coming up in a civil opportunity right now. So, but I did answer to you. Sorry.
I mean, it's anything that goes
Yep,
on in
I know.
the city. You got to have a way to talk to people in this town. It's
Absolutely.
ridiculous.
Yep.
Thank you.
Duly noted. Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments.
Richard Corvo, the first comment I have to make, and this has bothered me for some time. I think that the council's repeated going into closed session is an abuse of the Open Meetings Act. I've been on boards in other cities and we virtually never go into closed sessions. Since the present governor's been in effect, I'm a commissioner with the Michigan Civil Rights Commission. And there hasn't been a time when I personally, the board in the state of Michigan, hasn't been subjected to litigation in state and federal courts. We just had our last meeting in the Upper Peninsula. We go around the state on July 22nd. I believe the count is there's currently 6 litigations going against the state of Michigan and the Michigan Civil Rights Commission in the federal courts and the state courts, and I'm not sure, but I think even in the Court of Claims. Each time the Attorney General's office of the state of Michigan is present, they explain the lawsuits, they explain what's going on, and they explain what they expect going to happen. I haven't heard that happen to the board here yet. I'm speaking to you as a citizen, not as an attorney representing Les Open Northville. Our family has 7 homes in Northville, own rentals, we own businesses, and I own multiple businesses in Northville. Except now that Councilperson Janetti is on the council, as far as I know, I could be wrong. Nobody else on the council has any skin in the game. The business in this team, in this city are hurting. If there's a proposal to put it on the ballot, that of course would be subject to what happens in the jury trial. But the language that I saw submitted by the city manager for the proposal on the ballot is inadequate. It gives the voters two choices, open or shut. It doesn't say, can we keep it open the way it was? I've lived in Northville for 34 years. Can we keep them open the way they used to be open? Closing them for special events? I propose that the council appoint a panel with representatives of various city people, including business people, to formulate the language to go on the ballot if there is an advisory.
Thank
And
you.
I propose my son Joseph Corvo and Mary Keys as panel member.
Thank you. Any other comments? This is other than the downtown opening or closing the streets. This is other than that.
I
This
said
is
no,
way
it's
other.
Than the ballot.
Oh, the
No,
ballot question,
no,
the
it
ballot
has nothing to
question.
do.
Way other,
Okay, good. I expect nothing else from you,
way
Doctor.
other.
Thank you.
And I'll apologize if some of you feel I'm wasting your time. with
You
this
are not,
topic,
you are
but
not.
I would like to acknowledge a few individuals, and no offense to many other individuals in this room and in this town that have similar efforts to make Northville a beautiful place that it is.
Yes,
So-
introducing.
So your name and address
William Demery, 371 East
Yeah.
Main for the last 49 years.
and talk to us, Bill.
So I'm going to highlight three people. Number one, because he's here tonight, Oren Mazzoni.
Absolutely.
A long time ago, fixed the facade on his building, made the bricks perfect again, has the most beautiful
Beautiful.
windows in town. Has moved the family operation started by his father from Westland, lock, stock and barrel to the corner
Yeah.
of Main and Center. Garden City? Sorry.
Close enough.
But anyway, he's here, 100%
Yes.
invested. Rick Cox keeps that water wheel turning.
Good friend.
Made those buckets stainless steel. Keeps that sleuth open over at Millrace Village to keep it turning, all on his own. Doesn't ask anybody for anything, just does it for the love of Northville. Two examples of people who love Northville and are invested 100%. Work hard, quietly,
Great.
sometimes too quietly about some subjects. And then Dennis Henninger.
Yeah.
Two historic homes, one for his son, one for him. Put up a couple of new buildings for years ago, renovated a Main Street historic building, sold that, put up a condo building, sold that. But now he outdid himself. The absolute jewel of East Main Street, something that was in blight for many, many years, something that had multiple unenforced violations. Dennis has grabbed that thing, done as good a job as the Stone Gang would do for the historic village. Quietly invests, puts his heart in his town to make it what it is. I just want to thank you, gentlemen.
Great. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, all three of you. That is appropriate. They are great. Outstanding. Anybody else on anything other than what's on the agenda? Going once? Come right up here. And you brought bread for everybody tonight too. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Cookies.
David Cole, 121 High Street. My wife and I also own the property at 139 East Main Street, and then also the business that resides inside of it, Great Harvest Bread. For 22 years, we've relied on cars to see us and be able to get to us. And for us, we feel that the reopening of Center Street and the reopening of Main Street would be very beneficial. We support having them open and then also having them closed for special events and for other things that the city sees fit. But just to go on record, we just wanted to say that's how we feel as property owners, as business owners, and as residents, less than a block and a half away from downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Anybody else before we go to liquor control?
Streets open, folks.
Well, no,
No.
no, so.
No, when I get to the third section,
Seasonal closures.
we'll,
Okay.
I'll allow it. So I think, Dennis, I thought I saw you stand up. You're a tall man.
All right. Well, first of all, Bill, thank you for your comments. I do appreciate that. And I've mentioned this, well, Dennis Andrew, 999 Cold Spring, Northville. And I've mentioned this before as city council. You know, I've been here for 45 years. I love this town. And whatever happens, and I've said this before, I think we can come to an agreement on however we structure this opening and closing thing. You know, we've gone back and forth, back and forth. I would hate it to be up to a judge, be up to the city council, be up to the mayor. None of those people should be blamed for, you know, what happens. I think we're all trying to do the same thing. I think everyone here really wants what's good for Northville. We have our differing viewpoints, and that's fine. And I love these meetings. Let's figure out a way to do that. You know, let's go carefully. Let's go slowly. Honestly, the closures have not affected my business that much. To some degree it has. It's, you know, it's confused a lot of my patients that come to my office. But, you know, I'm outside of that closure right now for my main office and my main business. But I still would like to see it open just because, you know, I'm a property owner for other businesses that are downtown, and I'm concerned about what happens to the value of those properties, you know, when I'm dead and gone. You know, property values are based on traffic count, visibility, all of those things. And, you know, when the Tuscan, you know, I'm in no longer control of that building or any of the other properties, I would like to know that those buildings, that property has some inherent value. In any city, it's a function of, you know, visibility of traffic. I didn't want, Northville's been open for 200 years and it's been viable. It's worked. It's been great. I think rashly moving to close it, to shut it down and creating all those other problems is not, you know, the right thing to do right now. Let's consider how we might do that, you know, in some compromise matter where, you know, it's closed like it is for events, for the weekends or whatever. But for the main, throughout the week when nobody's walking through town, traffic has to be diverted. I just don't think it's, you know, the wisest thing to do. But whatever, you know, is decided, you know, I'm going to go along with it. Like Bill said, you know, I've been here, I've done things in Northville, not for my own benefit, it's for the future of town, for my children. I've done 10 buildings in Northville and I want to continue to do that. I just love this town and what it's worth and what you know, the inherent value is. We got to be careful that we don't wreck what we've had, that we've put so much time and effort into, you know, to make that downtown beautiful, to show it off. I just don't think it's getting the attention, the traffic, the visibility that it used to get. You know, I just see it every day and I'd hate that to go away. But anyhow, I appreciate your comments. Let's see if we can come to a, you know, some kind of logical compromise.
Thank you, Dennis. Appreciate that. Anybody else come right up to the microphone so they can hear you online too. Thank you.
My name is Dan Schutt, 245 South Wing Street. Mr. Mayor and council members, this is tangential to the downtown issue. It's really a safety issue that concerns me very deeply. I live in the middle of South Wing Street, and unfortunately, the only real north-south corridors that exist at this point in time are Haggerty Road and Beck Road. And what has happened downtown, which I have no intention of commenting on, has made Wing Street into essentially an expressway. I've lost 2 mirrors off my cars. The one I have on now is cracked badly and it'll have to be replaced. The electronic sign idea is genius. Whoever came up with that, I really like it. It does slow people down a little bit, except for the people on the motorcycles who try to see if they can get 2 zeros on it. I love our police department. Our chief, our patrol people are fantastic. However, there is no attention being paid to the speed of cars on South Wing. And when there is a police presence, they're out in the open where everybody can see them and everybody slows down. And the minute they turn the corner, the speeds go up over 45 miles an hour again. And people dispute that, but I can read the sign from my porch. And 45 and 55 miles an hour are not uncommon with a Tesla or a Charger or some other vehicles that we have around our town. I'm just saying it's become dangerous. And I don't know, I'm not like other folks who have a point of view about what you should do about it. I'm just saying that the present circumstances are unsafe. They are unpleasant for the residents. And I would just beg you respectfully to help us out here. We need something. And I know there are proposals in other committees about traffic calming and other things. I really appreciate that. But this morning, there were cars exceeding 45 miles an hour past the front of my house. That can't work in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for the comments. Anybody else before we go to liquor control? I'm closing this section off.
Joe Corvo, 237 South Wing. I wasn't going to speak tonight because everything I know, I already said on several times.
I know we have a package. If you've ever spoken here or texted or whatever, we have about 287 pages here.
Yeah, and I'm probably on every one of those.
You are right on top of my list of life. Thanks, Joe.
Dan, my neighbor, where's he at? Back there.
He's in
2 doors down. 100% concur. A lot of those objections that I've had is the lack of police patrol and or narrowing or calming of South Wind Street, which has been the bypass for what's been going on at Center Street. And that's why last city council meeting, I said, go down Eaton,
Right.
go down High,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Go down West Street or Main Street, West Main Street,
Yep.
go down.
Go by Mary's place.
Go
Go
by
ahead.
Mary's.
Yep, yeah, okay.
But I meant,
I got you.
if we all realize the impact that this traffic had, you would be more concerned about controlling it.
Yes.
But you're not, because we're the ones dealing with it. And then my dad's 83 years old or 84 years old.
You should know.
And that's an impact on him and the rest of the people here.
Yes.
To moving this consideration, which all should have been taken prior to the consideration of moving the closed session and then coming back later. I mean, this is the prime time right now, so. And a lot of other people here that expect to have a resolution before moving the order of the agenda. So for that part, I object.
Thank you. Any other comments? Ms. Casterline, are you coming up? Good.
Something really.
Roxanne Casterline.
122 went down there. I signed my name.
Yeah.
Okay. I belong to an organization called Northville Action Council in the 1990s. That organization was a bridging organization between community and school for substance abuse education intervention and any grants and money that was available. I heard something really amazing just a few minutes ago, and that is we could, as Northville Action Council did in the past, we could create a bridging organization between the citizens and the city council and come up with some cooperative ideas that we all could participate in. Northville Action Council was very successful in bringing what was needed to Northville to educate kids. But I think that we could resurrect some of this and create a bridging organization. So let's do it.
A bitchin' organization. Let's do it.
No, I really do believe that we need to try to move forward and we can't. If you're here and we're there and nobody comes together. So we create Northville Action Council.
Thank you, Roxanne. Come right up. No problem.
Steve Presmitsky, 426 East Street. I just want to point out, I know you guys got me going on the speed. I also at High and Randolph, a lot of people like run stoplights, but that's not my real problem. There's a bridge there that has been closed for, I don't know, was it 2 years? And the only reason I have a problem, I have little kids, when they ride their bikes or whatever, you can't cross the street and ride a bike because there's stairs. So that what do little kids do? They ride in the street, people come around the corner at about 30 miles an hour. Had some close calls, had to use some profanities. My kids now know an extra swear word. I just want to know, what can we do to get that bridge reopened? For a while there, people were literally taking the thing off. I'm pretty afraid someone's gonna take a chainsaw to it next. So that's it.
It's coming, so it's good, even though this is not Q and A. We have a grant to get it done.
Well, we've been applying for
Yep,
grants.
so
Yeah.
it's coming. So that's a good news. Anything else before we get to the liquor control people that's been here since 6, going once, going twice? Okay, I'm closing this section off. We'll open it up for section before we go to closed door, so everybody will get it. So I will open it up to the chief. We have 2 things for the liquor control. One, the Great White Buffalo on their approval for the small distillery. Why don't you tell us and those that are online, please? Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The first one before you is a request for a small distiller license to be issued to Sokolowski Brewing, doing business as a Great White Buffalo Brewing Company here in the city of Northville. This is an additional permit to his existing licenses for that location. Mr. Sokolowski has been in business for approximately 2 years. He's a good business partner. And he had submitted all of the applications that he needed to for this process. And this was approved by the MLCC earlier this month on July 11th. So basically with this new small distiller license, Mr. Sokolowski is going to have a company out of Detroit brew spirits for him. That would be vodka, rum, tequila, gin, and bourbon. They will be made off-site, and then he will be branded under his name, the Great White Buffalo, and then sold here at the location in Northville. The MLCC conducted an investigation, found no issues. We as well conducted an investigation, found no issues to move forward with this application. Earlier today, the local liquor license review committee met, and they found no reason to object for city council moving forward. Mr. Sokolowski is here if council has any questions.
Any questions for Eric here?
No, the only thing I'll note, as was referenced, that nothing was found in the background check. MLCC is already approved, and we met earlier today and found no issues as part of the application. There's also no plans to change current hours of operation, so it should be consistent. Just
Andrew, anything to?
No, I'll just piggyback on what Councilmember Carter said, is that distillery action will not happen on site. That will be in a remote location.
Great.
So it is not additional equipment that will be at their facility.
Yeah.
Great. I attended the meeting earlier and you did all the background checks and everything was great.
Nothing was
So,
remarkable.
any other questions for council?
Just a
Yeah,
clarification.
clarification.
These applications are dense, right, from LMC, and I appreciate it going to the review committee with our 2 council members. And if somebody picked this up cold and read it, it's the brewery, it talks about brewery operations on site. But just to clarify, those will continue
Correct.
for the beer. Everything's the same. And
Just adding.
for this distiller license, this distill, it will occur off-site. Yeah. So if somebody reads it, they'll think, yeah, okay.
That's good. Great.
And mine is, I love your business and we appreciate it so much. You guys are open and doing cool things. So thank you.
Here, thank you
Love
for
it.
being flexible and modifying things.
Yeah.
Good. Any other questions? Great. Closing us off here. Is there any questions from the audience? Comments for the Great White Buffalo Brewing? Going once, going twice. Okay, I'm closing that off. So in your package, you have a sample motion, a recommended motion. I'm looking forward to somebody to bring that motion to the
I can
table.
take this one.
Please do.
I move to approve the resolution approving the request by the applicant for small distiller license to be issued to Sokolowski Brewing LLC, doing business as the Great White Buffalo Brewing Company, 101 Main Center, Northville, Michigan, 48167.
So I have a motion. I'm looking for support. So we have support of that motion. Any other discussion on this motion? Great. I think we can do this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations.
Yay.
Start
Congratulations.
distilling there. Good. We'll be there. Great. Stay there, Alan. We have the second one. This is a transfer from FG to Koji. Tell us about that.
Okay, the second one on the agenda is the transfer ownership of a Class C license, as well as a Sunday sales permit. And that's from the former owners of Koji at FG Enterprises, Inc. to the new owner of Koji, Koji World Inc. At 146 Mary Alexander Court, Northville, Michigan. The new owner here, Mr. Troy, is here, as well as his counsel to answer any questions that city council may have. We received notice from MLCC back in December of 23 regarding the license transfer and the ownership transfer of the business. The LLRC application was submitted as well as a plan of operation. Everything was found to be in order. We did conduct the background investigation. We didn't find anything that would prevent this application from moving forward. It should be noted that MLCC did approve this transfer, I believe, in April of this year. And we're coming to city council to satisfy our local ordinance. It should be noted that one of the questions that came up during the LLRC meeting was that he does have the Sunday sales PM permit, but he's not going to be open on Sunday. It was just part of the purchase of the property and the existing liquor license.
Right.
And as well as there's no bar at the location. So basically offers some beer varieties as well as sake to be served so basically the food to alcohol ratio is 90% to 10% alcohol. Like I said before, the LLRC did meet prior to this meeting and did approve and recommended that city council not object to this application moving forward. If I could call up Mr. Choi and his counsel to answer any
Certainly.
questions that council may have.
And again, John and Andrew and Ms. Petrus, anything that was extraordinary?
No, Mayor, just a little more background. Mr. Choi would be new business owner in town and we would welcome him. He has another similar restaurant, I believe, that's been active for 7 years with no incident.
Correct.
So he would be a great member of the business community. Like the chief said, there was nothing remarkable about him or the application. It's just a clear transfer.
That's a good thing.
Yep, that's a good thing. It's a clear transfer of permit and like it was already stated, he won't be open with Sunday even though he has the permit. So it was recommended. So it was, I'd be ready to welcome him into the community.
Thank you.
I'll
Anything to add?
echo the thought. It's a transfer of license, so everything's covered. They did go through a full background check as part of MLCC as part of that. So yes, it's a transfer, but they still had to re-go through the process. I did make a pitch for sushi to be available on Sunday.
Deliver.
This proof
Okay.
that we don't always get everything we want, but welcome to the community. Excited.
Did you try to go there Sunday? I saw you around there. Okay, Good, good. Any other questions from council? Great. Any comments from those in the audience tonight? Going once, going twice? We would like a lot of sake, yeah. Thank you very
Put
much.
that under advisement.
Duly noted, presently accepted on that one. So good. With that, there's a sample motion in your package. I'm looking for
Yeah,
that motion
Mayor,
to be
I'll
on the
move
table.
to approve a resolution approving the request by the applicant to transfer the existing Class C license with Sunday sales PM permit from FG Enterprises INC DBA Koji located at 146 North Mary Alexander Court, Northville, Michigan 48167 to Koji World Inc. at that location.
Support.
So we have a motion properly supported. Any other discussion? If not, I think we can do this. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Congratulations,
Welcome.
it's transferred. Thank you, you bet.
Thank you.
Good. So now we will go to C, which will be the resolution we're gonna go to a closed door, but I'm gonna get all the comments out here, then we're gonna go to closed door and come back. Let me just kind of stage this up. So again, knowing going back for 193 years, our streets were open here. I'm 5 generations from here and some of you out there probably are more than that. The streets were open. During COVID, absolutely, it was the right thing to do to close our streets. We kept 90-some% of our businesses. I'm the chair of the Conference of Western Wayne. 41% of the businesses went out of business at that time. We then went to 6 months and 6 months because I think we all believe the weekends are outstanding. If you were there this weekend, thousands of people. The weekdays are hundreds of people, but we then went from 6 months to 6 months. We invested in the future in these bollards so we can have parades that come through. We can have festivals. We can be more flexible in the future, whatever that means. So that is an opportunity. We're looking at as we go forward, what does that mean? Do we put small bollards, the DDA, the
You lost me, sorry.
Oh, so we're looking at bollards even.
Dropping
Yeah,
bollards.
dropping bollards in front of the stores. Where EDC met this past week looking for that. So it's a very professional look and feel for safety in the future. That takes a little bit of time. This came up very quickly. We're trying to be very flexible down there. We are looking today, staging the area here. We are looking, do we put this on the ballot? As I look out there, many of you have said in the coffee with council and even here, we should put this on the ballot. Some of you, you had a chance maybe to put that language together yourself. We decided to do that. So today, the question why we're here, and we are all in to get your comments. So together, you know, what do we do long term? As we go forward, I want all the comments, but we are looking, do we put it on the ballot? Main Street, Center Street. We're not going to decide, is it going to be the weekend? Is it going to be one thing or another? We're looking, do we put it on the ballot today to get more information, to be open to get as many comments and that as a data set for some of the people here. Then we're looking at the language. We're language tonight to do that. When we come back, if it goes on the ballot by November, and we have timing, we're here tonight because by next Tuesday, both Wayne County and Oakland County, which we've been talking to, have to understand, can it go on the ballot? We are trying to get this on the ballot to get more information. So I've talked to both counties. Right now, it looks like we can do it, but they need as much time as possible. We want to get those data questions on there, yes or no on the both. In November, depending on where it is, we will meet again to some comments here. Do we get together? What does that mean? It's 52-48, it's 90-10 on one street or another. What do we do? Can we do the weekends? Do we do others? We are not going to decide that tonight. We will decide that after that ballot opportunity comes out. So just wanted to make sure everybody knows, does it go on the ballot tonight? Many of you, I'm looking out there, I see 6 or 8 people that have asked for that. We are trying to hear you on that. So that is the opening. I want everybody to give their comments from left to right. And then this is not the final. Then all of you, this is your time to give comments. We'll go to a closed door. I don't think it's going to be War and Peace down there, Jeff, but we will see.
Yeah, and this is only for public comment on this topic.
This is for public comment on this topic, but I would like us to weigh in on our comments right
We
now.
moved the agenda item. We didn't, that wasn't what we agreed to.
So we can talk about what's on our mind before, because that might answer some of their
We
questions.
moved the agenda items, we flipped D and C.
Tony, I will put that to you.
So just to remind, the motion is approved 4-1. Flip the agenda items of C and D. So closed session comes first, but what we asked and was answered that was okay, so that the public did not have to wait. The public comment on that, what is now agenda item D, could happen before we went into closed session. That's what we agreed to.
Tony, I'll ask you your opinion, and I am open for that. Do you not want to give your opinions right now?
So I think Ms.
Barbara.
Morosky Brown is correct in that if we were going to talk about the agenda item, it's technically not up yet, but I think you have the discretion to allow people to voice, the council members to
Okay.
voice their opinion if they want to prior to the public comment.
I hear what you're saying. I will bring all the comments from the audience up now. We will come back with ours. Are you comfortable with that?
Certainly is outside of Robert's rules and not what we agreed to, but
No, I'm saying we will do yours.
that's,
We said we would
I'm
get
just-
all comments early on from the public, and then we will go into closed door. I
oh,
believe
that
it.
part, yes.
Yes, so
Absolutely.
that's what I just asked you.
Yes, that
Super.
part I agreed to. Yeah.
Agreed, council?
Yes.
Great. We will do that.
Absolutely.
And then we will come back from closed door and we will get everybody's opinion here. Good. So this is the time that you've been waiting for. If you have any comments you want us to consider, we're going to go to closed door. We'll come back in. We'll try to be as efficient as possible down there, but this would be the time that you may want to come up to the microphone, do a line to the left. Yes, even if you talked before, this is a new 3 minutes. This is a new 3 minutes. Most municipalities, you get one time. We're very open, even though somebody doesn't think we're as democratic, very democratic. Go ahead. Absolutely. Roxanne, you don't have to get her address. We have it.
Okay, Roxanne Castline, 122 West Dunlap, but I want to be formal. Anyway, while you were speaking, the Northville Action Council was resurrected, and tonight, while you're in your closed session, we're going to have a closed session.
That'd be great.
And how it worked in the past was, there was a representative of ours with you when you made the decisions and put together the wordage for anything that was important that ran in Northville. So we would like to present to you that we would like to have a representative, and we share with you what we've come up with, and you share with us, and then so we have a commonality. So we're going to have our first meeting while you have yours.
Excellent. Excellent. You have this room. We'll go downstairs so you can use the table in the back. Anybody else? This would be your time for comments. Going once. Ms. Long.
Allison Long, 392 Fairbrook Court, also business and property owner in downtown Northville. As you may know, we are losing one of our tenants, a retail business on Main Street. A few months ago, Sam from Design du Jour was going to renew his lease, but just recently decided he was unable to. He has had basically 0 new customers since the streets closed again earlier this year. He tried staying open later on weekends, but those visitors to town during that time were not here to shop. He was an established business before renting from us 3 years ago, and he will continue to be one elsewhere. Sam felt disheartened knowing that the city does not seem to care about all businesses. This is unfortunate for this town, as we have very few true retail stores, and now even less. Just like how businesses on the closed streets do not have visibility for new customers, we now have a for lease sign on our building that is not going to be visible. This trend will have a negative impact on the city when commercial property values begin to diminish due to these vacancies, which I can only assume there will be more to come. We know there are businesses who have been afraid to speak out about how they feel on the issue of the street closure due to attacks on social media, calls for boycotting. Unfortunately, I feel like the stance that the city has taken on this topic, which is digging in on your position, has helped to fuel this rhetoric. The city should take the position of supporting all businesses in Northville. My understanding is, putting this issue on the ballot would not be binding. It would be more like a recommendation to you, and then you would still speak on it and make your decision. It would basically be a survey. What you need to do is take a vote or a survey of those who are directly affected. The business owners, the property owners, and the residents in the nearby neighborhoods. Survey those affected by the street closures 7 days a week, not those who may like to come downtown on the weekends only. But you have not done that survey yet. I feel like because you know what the results would be, and it would go against your position on this. Putting this on the ballot would just continue to divide this town. People would be campaigning for their position. It would pit the businesses and their customers against each other, even more than what is happening already. Over the last few years, the DDA has voted at least twice, I believe, to open both Main and Center immediately and recommended to council the same. But yet here we are still. This is no longer a time for experimenting on whether or not these closed streets will work. This is real life, and it is affecting the livelihoods of businesses and property owners. This matter is starting to come to a head, and we can't sit back any longer. There are going to be real implications to the city. Please, please keep an open mind and rethink the decision on the seasonal closures.
Thank you, Allison. Anybody else? Anybody else? Come right up.
Martha Conrad, 602 Fairbrook Street, been a resident of Northville for 49 years. I want the streets open. I want it on the ballot. I think it was a great idea during COVID, but the time has come for it to end. I know everybody's taking a side, but I think we need to make a decision that's best for everyone. Not just a few businesses, because I have talked to businesses in town and they are telling me our business is down, the streets are closed, we were doing better when the streets were open. We need car traffic. We need people driving through town. All I gotta say, get it on the ballot.
Thank you. Anybody else? David. On Grace Street, I believe.
Yes, Mayor, City Council members, my name is David Merrill, and I live at 443 Grace Street. While I'm here to talk about what's on the ballot, I did want to say that the success of the businesses is utmost importance. And while I'm not here to speak on that, I would recommend, if you haven't done it already, that you survey all the business owners. You construct a survey and hear from them directly, because from what my understanding is, some of the people, including at the last meeting, said they hadn't been contacted. But I am glad that you're considering putting advisory questions on the ballot in November so that the voters of this city can have their voices heard. And in this time of great polarization, not only in the country, but in the city. In fact, I'd heard that some of our people actually have had death threats over what's going on in Northville, which was sad to hear. But I think that our voters have to have a chance to hear their voices heard fairly. And in my opinion, that's putting it on the ballot rather than some of the surveys we've done. However, the type of questions that are asked and the structuring of the wording of the questions on the ballot must be clear and easy for voters to understand, or the results could lead to more controversy and more division. It seems like one of the elephants in the room that is not being specifically addressed is the weekend closures, which are easier now that we have the bollards. In addition to seasonal closures, shouldn't we ask about weekend closures? Another idea of concern is, should there not be a definition of seasonal closures? Because I bet if we asked in this room, we could get a lot of different definitions. I think it's of great importance for you to take your time, but I now understand how limited that is to get the wording right. And I understand you have to get this ballot finalized, but if you have to meet, anyway, I hope you can get it done tonight. And thank you for hearing me. Appreciate this.
Thank you, David. Anybody else? Going once? That's okay. He's getting his steps in.
Okay. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but I did have some questions. When I read the proposed ballot initiative questions, I was wondering about why the futures of Main and Center are being separated. If you think this is good for the city, why are you not evaluating it for both all the cities, 2 streets, or all or none? So I think a lot of people are curious about that. And then I understand a number of people contacted council people this week about wording. And I understand that there are a lot of rules about the wording, about what is acceptable. I think we should know what all the rules are. We appreciate that. And also, I hear from a lot of people in town on both sides of this issue daily. And I think that there's a feeling out there that first of all, I don't think people understand that this is an advisory only ballot initiative. And I think that needs to be absolutely crystal clear to people. So we do not further disappoint people who feel very emotionally attached to this issue. And I think I heard the mayor talk to this, but I'm concerned that there is also an assumption and an expectation that city council people will honor the outcome of the vote, regardless of what it is. If you expect the citizens to do that, I think you should also state before it goes to the ballot that you are willing to abide by the vote of the people.
Thank you. It's all yours, sir.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Oren Mazzoni from Orange Jewelers, 101 East Main Street. I've been in Northville for 43 years. I had hair.
You did a lot of it.
I get it. Actually bought probably the ugliest building in town 43 years ago. It was all mint green, the whole bottom half of it.
Yeah.
It's been a labor of love over the years to create what we have today, and we're very proud of it. Very proud of Northville. My initial reason coming to Northville when I was a lot younger was it reminded me of growing up in Garden City, downtown, people walking on the streets, parking on the streets, just a viable downtown area. And it's been a pleasure to be here. I think initially when we closed the streets for the reasons we did for COVID, it was the best thing we could have done, and it really saved our city, saved our restaurants, and I think just everybody, the morale of the city, it was the right thing to do. As time goes on, naturally things change. We get more comments now the last several months from our customers of like, well, why are the streets closed? There's, we can't find a parking place in the back. We can't find a parking place here. Again, we don't have that many spaces that we've closed, but sometimes it's the perception that if somebody's driving through town and they can't find a place on the street, they don't feel as bad driving around. The other problem is, how do they get around? And that's a big problem for people that, we have a lot of customers, all of the businesses downtown that come from, different parts of the different communities. And again, it makes it more difficult for them to find a place to park. Your job is, very unrewarding and a big challenge.
Duly noted.
I'm sure you know that. Needless to say, I think that we need to get this resolved one way or the other. If it's going to be on the ballot and the community is going to vote on it, I think we would vote, we're going to deal with that either way. I think that we need to make sure very, very important that that's clarified. Okay. So many of these ballot issues, you read it and what it says, it means the opposite. So I don't know how to, I'm not an attorney, so I don't know how to get around that. But I'd be more than happy if you need any additional comments or help with that. I would be more than happy to put whatever input I can put in there. I know that, the DDA, I believe, has recommended that the streets be reopened. Again, I think from a business standpoint, strictly, that would be a big advantage. Several businesses that I've talked to in the last 6 to 8 months, their traffic is way, way down. And, the challenge would be to get the traffic back in town. So.
Thank you, Warren.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Is there anybody else at this point? Yep, you can do it again.
Just for record, Steve Presmitsky, 426 East Street. Just want to point out a little contrarian view to, I think, most of the people in this room. Those with young families, I'm here to represent 3 families. Take my word at that. I would have said 5.
We do.
So those that have young kids, it's hard to get to these meetings and say what we really think. So I just want to point out, I've been here about 10 years. 3 cities before were Boston, Washington, DC, and Denver. Denver closed 16th Street. Wonderful. Booming. Great. Boston, walkable, nowhere to park anywhere. You got to go by the foot to find the traffic. Washington, DC, exact same thing. You never find a parking spot anywhere. You don't park you don't want to because it also costs a lot of money. I think we're underestimating the foot traffic. So respectfully to Orange Jewelers, my first 7 years this year, I don't think I parked downtown but a dozen times because it's impossible to find a spot. A lot of people took up what limited spots there are, just kept rolling. I don't think I would have went in Orange Jewelers if I had to drive there. I mean, I'm walking distance. So I walk through, but I think there's a lot of foot traffic. I hang out downtown. I see a lot of people hang out for a few hours. I go into stores I never thought I would. Bought a lot of handmade soap I never thought I'd buy just because. Yeah, some of those other knick-knacky things that I don't want, funny T-shirts and cups. Also, I will tell you, I spend a heck of a lot more money in the restaurants. And I'm talking thousands of dollars because now it's become a weekly event, sometimes multiple times a week, because we can go downtown, we can relax, have fun, have safe. And I think there's a lot of people like that. I just don't want the voices of the minority. So if you do put it on the ballot, make it permanent somehow. And the only other thing I'd say is I'm not in favor of the weekend closure only because I really liked when they had the nice deck set up and stuff. So it's actually like a real street closure, not just some temporary tables you throw out in the street and then you pick them up on the week during the week. So the seasonal 6 months I thought was great. So that's just me. I just want to say I'm in favor of keeping the streets closed seasonally, whether with 6 months.
Thank you. Anybody else at this point? Going once? Dennis?
Dennis Ender again, 999 Cold Spring. You know, whether we decide to go with a ballot or we decide to go with like a committee that Roxanne Casterline suggested, a group that interacts with the city council directly, you know, and I really like that idea, but I think, you know, we've heard comment over the years, both one way or the other, and a lot of the comment is great. But I think having the people, as a couple of people mentioned, that have a direct stake, the property owners, the business owners, the city that live in the central business district makes the most sense. And we've had some experts. We've had, I mean, all of us are, you know, got a personal stake in it, but there are people that, you know, understand this intimately, that's their specialty. We've got Lori Ward, who's, you know, a urban planner. I mean, that's her thing. She has suggested a couple of times, and she was all for closing during the COVID, but, you know, afterwards, she, in her professional opinion, thought it really made sense to open. And, you know, I have not agreed with Lori on everything, but I think she's a smart person. She understands the big picture. You know, I think we ought to listen to professionals like that. That was her position, and I think that's worth considering. Anyhow, whether we do it by ballot or we do it by interacting together, I think having the people that really know the city intimately, not, you know, outliers, people that are in the township or people that are in the outlying cities, you know, people that are directly, physically, financially affected, you know, makes the most sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Good. Anybody else? I think Denise.
Denise Jenkins, I work at Preservation Dental 371 East Main. I was not going to talk tonight, but I do want to say one thing, and I'm sorry to many people who are going to probably think, why did she say this? George, I read the verbiage, and I think, George, I think the city manager is a person who works with the city attorney in order to get that language. A plain yes or no. That's all we need. There is already a process in place for special events, and it has always been there, where if you get a special event permit, you fill out the permit, you fill out the paperwork, you come to city council, you ask for it, you say yes or no. I think that process was never taken away from us. We can continue to do that. We need a yes or a no. Should the streets be open permanently or closed permanently? I was here a couple of meetings ago and I said to you, I think that this city council, and we talked, I think Allison Long may have said there's a white elephant in the room. There is a big elephant in the room, and it's sitting on that side. And I'm very sorry. I mean you no disrespect. You must be the leaders. If you are sure that you want these streets closed, then permanently close them. Don't make us vote and make us get mad again. I'm a resident of the township. I work at a business in this community. You have put the people, a compromise has turned into a divided community. And there are 5 leaders sitting up there. George is not one of those leaders. He is our city manager, and it is his job to try to keep this under control. God bless you, George. The 5 leaders in this community must put yourself in a reputational risk and make a decision on what you think this community needs. And whether there is a vote and it says yes or no, and then you come around and say, well, there was a vote that said we want to close them, but we think we should do this. That is not correct. We saw a few minutes ago, I don't know about you guys, but we saw an argument up here that we've all been going through for the last 3 years. So you're getting a taste of our medicine right now. And I hope that you will look into your hearts and say, I want this and I'm going to make it work. I'm willing to say if there is a vote that says yes or no, and the decision is that the streets are going to be permanently closed, I will do my best as a business person in this town to make sure that it works. But we need that same commitment from each one of you. You cannot go up north. I'm sorry, Mayor, you cannot go up north on the weekend. You got to make this work, each and every one of you, because you are the elected leaders of this community. And if the voters vote, it is the residents. It's not the business people. The business people pay taxes and they can't get the use of their streets. But the residents are the people who you work for. And you just need to, if you have a vote, you need to take them seriously, please. And please be leaders. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Jeffrey.
Thank you. Jeff Snyder, 508 Gardner Street. And you probably already know by now, I'm a fierce advocate for my neighborhood. And really by default, other neighborhoods. I guess the one problem is as far as streets open and streets closed based on businesses and businesses success, that's one thing. The reason I come up here is because of traffic in my neighborhood, right? It never ceases when the streets are closed. And with all due respect to you, because I enjoy the streets myself, Terry and I and the kids have been going down for years. We love to come down on the weekends and even during the week sometimes. But you know, the impact when the streets are closed, it means my street is open for traffic. And Wing Street is open, he alluded to it, and Fairbrook, and streets all around town. The impact is real, you know, and I don't know what streets, I know maybe a few of the streets you live on, but please consider that. That's the one reason, overriding reason, why the streets should be open, you know, unless you can find an alternate way, you know, to manage traffic in town. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Anybody else? Representing Orchard Heights there.
Kevin Clark, 777 Spring. I'd like to reiterate what Jeff's comments are. We've had multiple traffic studies talking about calming and trying to handle the traffic. But unfortunately, our town wasn't really built for that. And that's why we're struggling as a community, because we don't have that ring road. We've had 3 years of opportunity to try to implement some of those improvements, and we're still here with nothing. And if we can't do that to prove that we could make the ring road closed, then we don't need to open the street or need to leave the streets closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Anybody else?
I'm sure you're probably all tired of hearing from me, so I apologize in advance here, but I just want to reiterate some things that have been discussed here already. In my opinion, again, it's solely my opinion, a vote means a winner and a loser. That means that all of us as residents, there's going to be half the people that are upset and the other half of the people that are going to be, you know, emboldened by their decision. And I don't think that's the best solution for the city of Northville. I've long asked for a compromise, and we brought that several times to the board, asked to sit down, the city council, and decide what we could do to meet that compromise. That's obviously led us into the situation we're in now, but I still urge us to be able to take that into consideration. I think there's a solution that we all can be happy with, good or bad, without going through all the animosity and argument and finger pointing and everything that's gone on in this particular situation. I always come back when people ask me why the streets are closed, and I say, you tell me why. Because I've not got an answer from city council or anybody else. So the answer is why. If you decide to put this on a ballot, tell me why this is good for the city of Northville, because this is evident that it's not good for the city of Northville. There's nothing but animosity that goes on. And amongst the business owners, I've got a $13,000 bill. Many of the business owners here in town shared that same amount of property damage aside. I mean, property tax aside from my personal, which I think many of you don't share. I know, except for Councilman Janetti, none of you own businesses. Some of you aren't residents. So for you to make mandates and decisions that affect only me and don't affect you, I think it's out of touch with what the reality is. So I'm frustrated. I don't think we should have been here. I think if we had better leadership and people that probably look through this on a more thoughtful basis, we wouldn't be here, but I urge us not to have a thumbs up or a thumbs down, which would mean winners and losers. Come back to the table and figure this out so that we can all just move on and live in a city that we all obviously live and respect and love for all those reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
I want to make a point of correction. Have to be a city council.
Yep. You do have to live in the city to be on council. He said, we don't have to. Yep. So you meant, I know. I understand. He's not in the city right now, but he's not a voter on that. Dr. Demery, I got you. Yep.
William Demery, 371 East Main. Speaking of winners and losers, there's a lot of discussion between businesses hollering that my business needs this for its well-being. We have other businesses, Jessica, Rebecca, Prudence, David, saying it's not good for my business. We cannot pick winners and losers with these decisions. We cannot for 1 second let that enter in our thought process when we make these decisions. This is the 5th summer with the streets closed. We have people saying that it could be better, it would be nice, it'd be beautiful, wasn't for the opposition. It takes a lot of money, a lot of effort, a lot of creativity to make something like this work. You cannot blame the opposition that it hasn't worked so well so far. We don't have a lot of confidence it's going to make a difference if it goes on longer. But the idea of the closures has caused lots of consternation, obviously. If we just allow the city to operate, its infrastructure to operate the way it was intended to, that is, streets are streets are streets. Everyone else has to fall in line. I have to figure it out. How much room do I have to work? What about my parking? What about the traffic? What are those things? All of those things are everyday problems to run a business. But they're the same for everybody when the infrastructure works as the infrastructure is intended to. And yes, the police chief, school board, DDA, executive director, fire chief have all chimed in at one point. But they think that probably the street should be open for the purpose that they were intended to. And I'll said this many times, slow it down. 15 miles per hour, speed bumps. Everybody hates them because they work. Every real estate commercial executive in the world will agree on one thing. The more eyes on the property, the more valuable. And that trickles down to the business inside that property. That's why Haggerty Road is a big deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob, it's all yours. Would you like?
A brief follow-up comment on what I said, the Open Meetings Act. When we have Open Meetings Act with the Attorney General, those are zoomed throughout the state of Michigan. All Michiganders can see it, or Michiganians, whichever you prefer. And they're also published later. I have yet to see any advice from your attorney that's been published for the public to read what the advice is given. Secondly, there's an innate serious weakness to the advisory ballot. And that is, to the best of my knowledge, I think I'm correct, that there are more voters living north of 8 Mile in the city of Northville than south. They don't understand the business pressures existing in the business district, including tenants in our building. We have one is in the security. They have trouble getting people come in to interview for their jobs. So let's say hypothetically, there was an advisory vote, and let's say hypothetically it was voted to keep them open. It wouldn't reflect necessarily, and probably not, the percentage of voters that's actually being impacted in the central business district and in the neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Corvo. Okay, so appreciate that. Bob.
I wasn't going to speak tonight either, but you know, one thing, Lauren's wrong. he didn't have the ugliest building in the city. We did. That was the old church.
That was kind of a toss up.
And it was pretty doggone ugly.
Correct.
You know, I've heard right from the get-go that there was a survey done, and I heard right from the get-go, why don't we have a vote? Why don't we bring this to a vote? Now I hear, I'm kind of outnumbered in this room. I feel like there are daggers in my back right now. But the thing is that I am for these streets being closed seasonally. You all voted on it twice. It was changed, and it was a compromise to have the streets open only seasonal or closed only seasonally. I don't mean to scold businesses. I've been a businessman my whole life. But if you're going to have a business in this town, and when you have the streets packed with people and you close it, sometimes 5 o'clock at night, just about the time, you're marketing, as Bob Gibbs, the Gibbs Green Group came in and said to the city, you are marketing to the unemployed. And to close your business on a Friday or a Saturday evening early when you have hundreds, thousands of people in this city, I think it's a wonderful thing. But now back to the ballot. All of a sudden, I'm hearing people say, well, we shouldn't include the people who are residents in this town. We should only include those people that are directly affected, the businesses. Well, I think there's going to be a big surprise in the fact that there are a whole lot of people that are residents, and there are a whole lot of people who are business owners who really enjoy the opportunity to have all these people in their business. They're not driving by, they're walking by. They're not driving by their business, they're standing in front of it, enjoying a cocktail, saying, oh my gosh, I didn't even know this business was here. And to my thought, we've got to figure out a way to bring this community back together. And I was hopeful that a vote would do that. Now I'm hearing suspicions that, oh my gosh, there's going to be a winner and a loser. Our city should be the winner, not one side or the other. If a decision is made that the majority of the people in this town would like to see this seasonally closed, then go along with it. Stop all this nonsense. It's not very attractive.
Thank you, Bob. Anybody else? Right up, you can bend it towards you.
Hi, Dan Farrell, 729 Gray Street. I just moved here. Welcome aboard. I appreciate all the passion and the community that you all built. But just my perspective, like another young family, part of the reason I moved here was because the downtown was closed. Little kids can run around and play. We did it this weekend. So it is something special. It's attractive to a certain group, and I was part of that group. So thank you.
Great. I have a son on Gray Street there too. He'll introduce himself. Anybody else? Mr. Long? I think you're up, sir.
I got a couple of responses. The comment was made earlier, Jim Long, 400 Fairbrook Court. I should know that.
I do.
You should know it by now.
We do.
I heard a comment, thousands of people on the weekends and 100 during the week. That hundreds on over a 12-hour day. Okay, just to clarify that. In response to Bob, I mean, we got a store on Main Street. We were open on Friday nights and we're not anymore. It was simple reason. Our store manager says they're just walking around with a cup and a beverage in their hands. Nobody comes in to shop. So just to make a point on that. As Allison said earlier, we lost a retail space this week. And this thing on the street closures is hitting close to home to us. This guy came from Grosse Pointe. Guy from Grosse Pointe coming to Northfield. That ain't bad. And he had high hopes. Gone. So the question we're asking each other is how are we going to bring a prospective tenant into town, and he's going to see, where is everybody? He's going to come Monday through Friday midday. Center Street and Main Street are the CBD, Central Business District. Now it's a Central Barren District because there's nobody around on Monday,
through midday Friday. Say what you want, there's nobody around. Nobody's getting exposed from traffic going by the businesses. I said this right from the get-go when we had COVID. There's no vibrancy, there's no activity, there's no walking, there's no people. The negative impacts in the business community in this town, these stores, you know, I've caught wind here just since our place came vacant, the one retail we've got. There's a half a dozen people on the fringe right now that may not be here in 6 months. One that's going to be here doesn't want to renew her leases. Two stores. Owning a business in this town is a very fragile business. The negative impact of these street closures is significant to the business community. But more so, not more so, but also the negative impact, what I think is getting overlooked, and this thing's gonna run out, but I'm not done.
I'll give you a few more seconds on it.
I think
Keep going.
I think I've done that. The negative impact in the streets, Wing Street, Fairbrook, First Street, Hutton, by Hutton going by our building, that needs, you talk about speed bumps.
I'll let you finish it up.
Yeah, I'm not too far down.
Okay, good.
The impact of the traffic going fast down Hutton Street through Cabbagetown all the way to 8 Mile is significant. I got broadsided the other day at Wing and Fairbrook. I traversed that intersection a lot. I sent the chief an email. The chief is going to put that reflective stuff around the column and you know, I give the chief a little bit of slack. It's tough. He's cut out. It's tough to be everywhere. You know, he's got a budget. It's probably limited his people. So you've got a lot of negative impacts in this town, traffic and businesses, because of the closed streets. Now, I like to think I'm friends with everybody up at the dais, but friends are friends and business is business, and I got something to say in closing here. This town's broken. This town is broken. It needs to be fixed. First of all, the comment was made, close them permanently or open them permanently. Close these streets permanently, kiss this town goodbye. The previous decisions to close the street, hard, fast decisions that were made, let's do it permanently. Okay, I understand. I don't know where the facts came in to make these decisions, but some of these are etched in stone.
And I'd wrap it up, buddy.
Yeah, I am. Give me a couple of minutes because this is important. Okay, thank you very much.
Wrap it up.
Yeah, if your dad was here, I'd ask him.
I know, I appreciate that.
Yeah. The sign of a good leaders in this community is the ability to say, you know, I made a decision about something, but you know, I'm hearing a lot of reasons why maybe this decision's got to be revisited. There's nothing wrong with revisiting a decision and making a change or modifying a previous decision. It's a sign of good leadership. And by doing that, you will gain the respect, RESPECT, of the community. Now, if you stick with your hard, fast rules, hard, fast decisions, with all of the massive negative impacts that happens, you got the opposite of RESPECT.
I understand.
So, I don't think this, I think there's enough good thinkers on this committee here. I think going to a vote is kicking the can down the road. You've got enough negative impacts in these roads that you can make some decisions and maybe put on the vote on the
ballot.
Open the streets, close them for the weekends. I think we're good with that.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. You bet. It's my pleasure. I know, I got you. I guess. Margene.
Margene Buckhay, 145 North Center, business owner, stamp peddler. One thing that has not been mentioned tonight at all is the economy. I see it in my business a lot. I have the wants, not the needs. People have to pay for food. It's high. Medicine, housing, rental, gas. And not one single person is talking about that. That has a lot to do with what's going on in this downtown. We also need a new mix of businesses, and it is very hard to get retail businesses because everyone shops online. We are showrooms. People walk into the store, they stand there with their phones, they look up the product to see if they can get a better price on it or could get it faster, whatever, and they don't buy. That has happened to a lot of businesses. And I know for a fact that that is a huge, huge problem. So I think there needs to be some looking at changing up and going after some businesses that we would like in our downtown, not just counting on someone coming in. And yes, it's sad to see these businesses go, but I feel that the economy is probably the biggest problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Martine. Is there anybody else before we go to a closed session? Come right up. We're not at the early bird together. Are you? I know, and I understand. Go ahead.
I wasn't gonna talk, but I couldn't get streaming online. It wasn't working. I'm Francie Planety.
Oh.
331 North Ely, 60-year resident of the city. And, like I said, I read the ballot and I think I emailed a couple people. I'm confused. I'm north of 8 Mile in Northville Heights, the oldest sub out of the downtown area. And I'm here kind of representing other people. The guy that calls him mayor north of 8 Mile, he didn't want to talk, so he's saying, we'll discuss that later.
Okay.
Even our great lady of 86 years here in Northville, she says, yeah, I like when the streets get closed. They got that music festival and I like the bands. And I go, no, it's really permanent. It's a 6-month COVID close, not that seasonal close. So the wording on the ballot is very misleading from what I'm hearing on our streets of various residents. So that could lead to a lot of disappointment and, you know, issues that they'll be like, is this an advisory ballot? And, you know, are we really going to close 3 months, 6 months? You know, it really should say permanent seasonal closing 6 months if you're going to word it that way. Don't confuse us. It feels like that Snoopy cartoon where they pull this football out and go, got you again. Yeah, gotcha. So, you know, if it is going to go to a ballot, people have to understand that it is advisory, that they're basically asking for advice from one small group of stakeholders, which is the people that live in the city. And make sure that it is either permanent or you want to say, do you want to do it seasonally to mean, you know, weekends and events, or you want to do this hard COVID close again? It's got to be very explicit. And like I said, we're only one group of stakeholders talking. You got all these businesses people's here. Nobody is here that drive those 40-foot Twinkies up the street, you know, to try to get the children safely to school. You know, do they really want to be doing that for 2 months in the spring and 2 months in the fall? And especially with the impact of all the traffic, you know, so no one's really talked to the transportation department of the city of Northville. No one's really talked to the parents that the kids say, I'm too big. Don't make me ride the school bus to the middle school. You're going to drive me, right? Or you don't love me. And so they got to come up Sheldon to get their kids to school. They're cutting through the neighborhoods. I'm taking my life in my hands, being a life-term member of the physical therapy group, to try to get in to get physical therapy, to get to turn in and find parking. So it's just a whole myriad that not all the stakeholders are being heard from at this juncture. And the ballot language is, I'm sorry, it's confusing. I've talked to a number of people in the neighborhood and they're confused. I said, well, I guess I'll come uptown, take one for the team and say, we're a little confused. So please help us reword it and listen to the stakeholders and let everybody know that it's just advice. So there's no hard disappointments.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francine. I appreciate that. Anybody else? Anybody else? DJ.
This is the guy one.
Absolutely.
DJ Ware, 249 Hutton, Northville. My family's been in the same street, same area since the 1800s. In 1944, I was born downtown, Harper Hospital, came home to the house that I'm in now. For those who have been here long enough, my grandmother's house became Little Italy. I was sitting in the front of the house the other day, and I'm doing this to be redundant and get on the record. The cars that come down Hutton Road are going over 40 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. If you're familiar, my house is straight across from the hill going down to Ford Field. Was sitting on the front porch. A woman in the morning, so a lot that happens with the dog walking in the morning, thank you, and evenings. Woman was coming across the street with a dog and a child 5 years old. A car was coming down the hill over 40 miles an hour. Started to speed up even faster than that. The kid panicked, broke loose from his mother, ran. The dog ran in another direction. She screamed, and the guy almost wiped them out. And the reason I want to be on the record is because somebody's going to get killed. And the last time I was on the record, I asked about speed bumps. And I don't know if, Brian, if you remember, somebody was going to get back to me about speed bumps to slow it down to 25 miles an hour. I don't want to be sitting there and watch people get killed. Thank you.
Thank you, DJ. Anybody else? This is your time. One more, and you have that right, absolutely.
Reason 370 Fairbrook. Thank you. The reason I'm coming up here, everybody on the panel here, including you, Mayor, probably more than anybody. You go downtown and those streets are empty. I probably got 150 pictures on my phone, and there's probably another 1,000 pictures in here. Every day, there's nobody downtown during the week. I don't know why you guys are fighting this tooth and nail. Not to mention you want to do this vote. What happens when you lose the lawsuit? Then what do you do? All these people think for voting on something. We've been giving you guys, we begged you guys to do a compromise on this. If you want to do this, close them on Saturday and Friday. That's the only time there's people down there. I mean, you all live here. You all look, you know, nobody's down there during the week. So what sense does it make? Not to mention all the construction going on. And you know that's going to be causing a problem. And that's why I don't like the way that was written up. Like you have Center Street and Main Street separated. And it's done for a reason. I know that, because I know you guys want Center Street open because of what's going on at the Downs. They don't tell me not, because you told me 2 years ago they were going to open up Center for good. You remember that little conversation we had, Mayor? No, you don't remember, I'm sure. Well, my point is, why are we voting on this? Wait and see what happens with the lawsuit first, or come to a compromise and save some money in court and work it out with the people that live here. Because every person in this room knows the street closures are not working. They're only good on Friday, Saturday night. And you can still do that. There's no reason you can't go down, walk around with a drink, do anything you want downtown. You just can't walk down the center of the street. I've been here, 37, 38 years. I've never seen anybody hit by a car. You guys used to have this seating with those decks right out. You had one lane. Nobody ever got hit. Nobody ever got hurt. Now you got people in neighborhoods on Hutton getting run over and stuff. It's all caused by the street closures. Every action has a reaction. And I think it's time you people need to really dig deep and think, how can we solve this without what's going on here? It's ridiculous. How much are you spending on lawsuits? All because 8 restaurants want their doors open, and they're not even open. They're only open on 4 times a week, most of them for 3 or 4 hours a day. That's ridiculous. I feel sorry for the other businesses here. What about their rights? They paid to have a business on a main street or a center street in a town. People can't even go by their businesses. And you need to take the residents that are affected directly by this too. The traffic, Wing Street, And with the construction, it's gonna, maybe it'll move into your neighborhoods and then maybe you'll start thinking about it.
Thank you, Ed. Is there anybody else? Going once? Mr. Cole, are you coming to the microphone of life?
David Cole, 121 High Street. I already spoke earlier on just the street closures themselves. This is specifically to the resolution or potential resolution. It was confusing to me reading it, and until I came here tonight, I didn't realize that, and I probably should have, but I didn't realize that if it got onto the ballot, it truly would be just an advisement to all of you, which to me, it just again is prolonging the decision. Whatever the decision is, Julie and I will certainly make it work. People who've been in here generations before we have, they've made it work. Whatever the vision is that city council decides to push us forward on, we will have our opinion, which is fine, and you all respect it. But we will also respect yours, and we will make it work. And we always have. Our business is going to be a generational business. So we'll be here, our kids will be here, their kids will be here. So if you do put it on the ballot, instead of an advisory, I would just request that it be an actual proposal. If you're going that route, then as many have said, make it count. Don't just make it another data point that then all of you have the unfortunate decision to make in terms of, well, now how do we incorporate this into everything else we've heard over the past few years? So if you do it, my recommendation or my thought would be, please make a proposal that people would vote on rather than an advisory type of question. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
You too.
I really think it would be helpful if you explain to people why in the state of Michigan, can only be advisory. People
Yep.
don't understand that.
We have to do policies and procedures. Anybody else?
Well, just,
Right.
just.
You can come right up here if you're on the clock, Brian.
My name is Brian McCaffrey. I live at 138 North Center Street. I just want to be clear, aren't all ballots in the city of Northville advisory? Can anybody answer that? Aren't all ballots advisory in the city of Northville?
So no.
Yeah, you could have
No.
it go one way and then the city council can override that. Okay, I thought that's what I read. That's part of the confusion.
Correct.
With a lot of.
Oh, legal mind over there. Correct. I want to confirm. No, we're correct. Anybody else before we go and look at the wording right now and go downstairs? Okay, I'm closing off public comment. Have your meeting. You have the council table in the back there. But before that, I'm going to take a roll call vote to go to closed door.
Just to clarify, it is, it's going to be the basis for closed session will be as read in the motion.
Communication, attorney client privilege communication.
Yeah.
Do you have that? I'm looking for the motion, attorney, client,
I-
privilege communication.
Okay,
You want to read that?
yes.
If you just relax just for a second here, let us do the
Yeah,
motion.
City council, oh, wait, I got the wrong. Oh, we don't have one.
Anybody have the motion? in
So
front of
I
them?
move that city council go into closed session pursuant to MCL 15.2681H to discuss attorney-client privilege memoranda exempt from disclosure pursuant to MCL 15.2431G.
So we have a motion.
Assuming they're.
Do you have support of that motion?
Support.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'd like a roll call vote on that.
Janetti? Janetti?
Yes.
Friends?
Yes.
Morosky Brown?
Yes.
Turnbull?
Yes.
Carter? Yes.
Okay, we are going into closed activity. We'll be back. council to come back from our closed door session. Do we have that motion?
So moved.
Okay, do I have support? Support? Any other discussion? Could you do a roll call vote on that, please? That would be Laura Janetti.
Yeah, give it the Lord.
Yep. I did. She got it.
All right, Krenz,
Yes.
Morosky Brown,
Yes.
Turnbull,
Yes.
Carter. Yes. Janetti.
Yes.
Yes.
I just
So we
want
are,
to interject unless you're going to about the
Yes, can I mention?
live streaming.
yes, go right ahead.
So I just wanted to mention that we are having a technical problem with the live streaming. The video is being recorded and it will be put after the meeting on YouTube, so it will be preserved as is, full recording of the show forever, but it is not being live streamed right now because of a technical glitch. We know it, we just can't fix it during the meeting. It can't be changed. At this point, we apologize for that.
It's on YouTube and we got modern.
The audio while you were gone, which was continuous.
Say that again.
The audio was continuous while you were
Oh, was it really?
here. So will that be part of the video?
Say that again.
So the in-room audio, you mean?
This,
Half hour of dead space.
The audio of us here in the back was all.
You were probably hearing it, but I had it on mute for the recording.
so how do you know? Because you didn't hear it on the recording. Oh, yeah, so. No, it'll be just us because we went to a closed door session. We shut it off. Even if it recorded you, it won't be on there.
I hope
So-
everyone in the back said nice things.
So we are back. We're in open session. Yes, it'll be duly noted, every one of you. We know what you said, so no. So from that, we had a lot of discussion down there. We didn't change any words down there because we said we would do that here in public in front of you. So right now, I'm looking for a motion to put this on the ballot or not, if you so want to do that. And then what will happen, we have a motion, it may be seconded. We will have discussion up here. And then we will look at that language in front of you back and forth. You've already given your public comment already before we went, but you will hear the words that may or may not be on there. So there was no discussion on the words downstairs. It was just discussion to go forward or do whatever. But so that's the way it'll go. Motion seconded. We will not vote on that until we have the words here, and you'll see that sausage made here in a second. So with that, I'm looking for a motion to go forward.
All right. I will, I'll start with the motion to get the conversation, as was highlighted, very open to the group discussing the specific language leverage to make sure we come to the right conclusion. I move to approve the placement of the ballot questions on the November 5th, 2024 ballot, and further to direct the city clerk, city manager, and city attorney to do everything necessary to effectuate that placement. Wording of the ballot initiative will be as followed, or as follows. Advisory question. Should the city of Northville continue the seasonal closure to establish a pedestrian-only area of 1 block of Main Street between Center and Hutton? Yes, no. Advisory question 2, should the city of Northville,
Between Center Hutton Street.
Center Hutton Streets?
I'm sorry.
Advisory question 2, friendly amendment accepted.
Thank
Good.
you.
Should the city of Northville continue the seasonal closures to establish the pedestrian-only area of 1 block of Center Street between Main and Dunlap Streets? Yes, no.
So we have a motion. Do we have support of that motion? Anybody that want to support that motion? We're going to have discussion on this. I will support the motion. I can do that. So we have a motion, so we can now have discussion on that motion.
Properly supported.
Properly supported. Any other discussion on that initially? So I'd like everybody, their opinions.
Okay.
You're going to hear now their mindset. They can say anything they want, and this is public knowledge, so not in closed door session, what they want to talk about on the motion. Go, let's start from left to right.
All right, starting, we had a question earlier. Tony, can you please describe to all of us on council and anyone else listening, why this is structured as an advisory vote and what that means?
Absolutely.
Sure. So to have a vote that would be binding on the council and, you know, the future council, it would have to be done by a statute which grants that authority. There isn't one in this particular circumstance. And so the advisory question has the same impact, and it's been adjudicated through the Court of Appeals to be legitimate. And so this will be as advisory. It is non-binding, but you do have authority to place it on the ballot in that capacity.
Okay. Thank you, Tony.
All right, so I'll get into my thoughts. This will be less speech oriented and probably more comments and where my head's at, thought process behind it. One general note, I do serve on the Economic Development Committee. We are looking at parklets. So I know questions were raised previously about outdoor dining. A parklet is just a different fancy word for a platform to enable outdoor dining. That was a concern that had been previously raised of would we be able to go back to the prior outdoor dining, given how this plays out. We are also looking at possible safety measures that would be approved, whether those be the Jersey barriers that have been shared and some of us are not big fans of, drop-in bollards, or other safety measures that could help enable outdoor dining platforms along the streets, similar to what we'd experienced in the past. Additionally, and I think this is an important point, the Economic Development Committee has requested a survey of our businesses. So both the businesses and the building owners, and the DDA director agreed to that during our EDC meeting. So we are going to be gathering additional information. I know it was raised of, we need to make sure we've got a clear view of where do our businesses stand, who supports this, who doesn't, and working through that process. Couple other items that I think are important. One is a fact sheet. So we have discussed this a few times. I've received messages. I think whether that is traffic data, safety data, business feedback that we've received, and it may not support one side or the other, but we need to be as transparent as we can be about all of the information, all of the data that we've received, that we're pulling together, sharing that with the community so that anyone who would consider, if we put this on the ballot, anyone that would then have the decision to vote on it would have access to that information. So they are making educated choices the same way that we're going through and looking at data to try to make choices. On the 1 street versus 2 street, I will be transparent. I have concerns on the practicality of dividing them. Part of that comes down to a placemaking element. Part of that comes down to safety, traffic flow, and how we manage that. I would like the group to discuss that and get people's opinions on that matter. I think we can make whatever the approach that's determined, we can make it successful. But I do think that there is a risk presented by separating them out and the ultimate outcome of the vote. Additionally, I would like to highlight, I've had a few people ask the question of why would we go with the seasonal closure extension versus the weekend only. Couple notes on that. I had concerns at the beginning of whether we should be going down the advisory path. Part of that is we can't become ungovernable and have a vote on every single topic that is controversial. Precedent matters. And so I do think that looking at how we're structuring it and having it be a ballot initiative based on a prior decision or an ordinance matters and is important because it puts some structure around that as we think about whether or not we should do this and what the implications are for the future. The other thing I frankly struggled with is if we did decide to go with something like a weekend only vote and you get a yes or no, if it's a no, does it go back to seasonal? If it's a yes, what does that mean? Or if it's a yes, it goes to weekend. But if it's a no, is it seasonal closures? Is it opens them up? It doesn't give you a clear answer. And I think we'd end up in the same position we are right now, where you have a town divided and people debating and then everyone arguing about how they interpreted the question. That gets to a general comment that as we finalize wording, we need to be really careful on how we word this so it is clear and it gives us good guidance of where people stand. All right, so now I get into kind of my summary in terms of where I'm heading. From the start, I've said the biggest factor for me was in all of this, beyond the safety and the traffic discussions, was noting, do our residents support this and do our downtown businesses support this? I think that is a critical data point that we leveraged. The DDA survey conducted several years ago did show significant support, and it was broken down by city residents. It did have business owners. It was a survey. Surveys are not perfect. I recognize, and we can have discussions on the flaws associated with that. But it did parse it into a lot of different options, and it provided us a viewpoint that there was strong support. Additionally, it's been referenced the stance of DDA. It is a fair statement. DDA was opposed to the permanent closures. DDA, the chair actually in this room, when we voted on the seasonal, I asked him the question of, does the DDA support seasonal closures? And the answer I got back was yes. Those are data points that I think many of us up here leveraged when we made the decision. To me, the decision to revisit, and it's been brought up, as any leader, whether it's 5 of us up here or those in the room, any leader should be willing to look at new data and make changes as they learn from information. To me, feedback from the businesses and a feedback from our population would be new data that we could leverage to come back and possibly change that approach, depending on where that vote fell and where people are at. The reality is this issue continues to be divisive. We have not moved on. We have thought we were getting steps forward that we're going to address that. It hasn't been successful. We need to recognize that hasn't been successful. A lot of people have come in here and asked for it to be put on the ballot. At Coffee with Council, it has come up on every Coffee with Council I have been to or I have represented this group at since we started that process. There were also, I believe, 6 letters that referenced putting it on the ballot in the Ville, which is frequently referred to as our hometown newspaper. So it ultimately comes down to, do we think this will bring the community together and be in a step in the right direction? And if so, does this give us data to ultimately help us make a better decision moving forward? I will say, I strongly believe that our downtown and the roads, simply put, don't just belong to the 5 of us. They belong to our residents. We are simply stewards of those roads and of this community and trying to do our best. So with that said, it was raised earlier, I will honor the results of that vote. Additionally, another person brought up what happens when the vote comes through. I will work as hard as I can to make sure the outcome of that vote and the implementation of any strategy around it is successful. I think that is a requirement. And I think we all have to have that mindset that if we're going to go through this process, we're going to listen to the feedback that we get from it, and we're going to work to implement plans that are successful accordingly. So with that, I look forward to hearing where everyone else falls on the issue as we work towards our final language and whether or not to put this on the ballot.
Great. We'll work from left to right now. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you, John. I'm going to keep mine. Enjoyed hearing what you had to say. I'm going to keep mine comments much shorter. I will say overall, I'm not inclined to put this on a ballot, as an advisory question on the ballot. I will briefly say one has to do with my reading of the charter. But the other is, I have to say, this has never been done in this city. Not only has it not been done in this city, it's rarely done in this state. I could find one from 2 years ago. I think our city attorney dug around. He could find one from decades ago. This is rarely done. Now, maybe some of it has to do with city municipal charters, right? But other times it's like, this is not, you don't govern by asking somebody's opinion on ballots all the time. I can tell you that there are so many things I'm like, geez, I can think of a whole list of things every time we run that I'd put on, but that would be mine. So it's like, is this how we're going to govern? Is this a precedent we're setting? So I think for better or for worse, we are elected officials and we need to govern. We need to listen. We need to gather information, but it's our job to govern and boot us out when you don't. If we run for election, don't like our policies, and what we assert we're going to do in our as part of how we govern, then you don't elect us. So the ultimate. But anyway, so I'm just not inclined on those two things. And one I'd say, as I said, it was very rare in the state. It's also rare nationally. There are a handful of states in our country that have advisory questions. In almost all instances, those advisory questions actually are in primaries. And those primaries it's generally whether it's Republican or Democrats, they're the ones that put it in their primary and they're asking opinion of only those voting in that in a partisan primary. So, I look to guidance on how others govern, and I think there's got to be some reason this is seldom used as a governing tool. That said, is that this is before me. So I'm a participant in this progress. If it's going to be on the ballot, I want to be a part of a team effort to make sure this is we're asking the right question or questions, number one, and it's constructed in a manner that is short, sweet, and clear. Must be very clear. I see that construct as question and clarifying or declarative sentence of what, if there's something need to be defined. And when you'll see that, I don't want to go towards something that is the long, when we get state ballot questions, we see them, we had a couple in our last statewide elections, and it's like this long, right? And then you're not sure by the time you're done reading it, okay, is yes mean I'm for this or against it? So it needs to be very clear what the yes, no is, very clear, as clear as we can be without turning it into a dissertation. So I think question, simple declarative sentence with the definition as needed is what we should do. I also favor, which we'll get to that, I favor one question. Right now, the structure is two questions. One is about Center Street and the other is about Main Street. Our current policy since April of 2023 is that we have a seasonal closure of one block of Center Street and Main Street from May through the end of May through October. And so that is our structure. And then defining, well, what one block is it, right? And that, to me, that's our current policy. And that's what we should be, if there's a ballot question, that it should be structured and asking, should we continue that current policy and define the policy in one question? So that is my preference versus two. So when we come back around, I'm prepared to offer alternate language that I think is poses a question with a clear declarative sentence after it, and also and that's true whether it's one or two questions. But I also will propose a single question as for discussion. So that is where I'll leave it.
Great. Councilperson Krebs.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the Mayor Pro Tem and other council member. I am very proud of the community for the level of passion and interest they have. I will take passion over apathy any day. But the artifact or the pathology of passion is going to be disagreement. Let it be known we all love this city. And we are looking at the prism through different angles right now. My ask is heretofore that we all treat each other with civility and know that we all want the best possible outcome. And with that, I'm very proud of the people I serve with here. All 5 people, I will not agree with them all the time, but you have to know the amount of work that these people put in and the amount of time and love that they have for the city is something we can all be proud of. And civil people will disagree civilly, okay? And there's 1,000 things going on in this city that are absolutely wonderful. And I actually think we're spoiled by all the good in some extent. Obviously, there's other things, all the great things in this town. And there's a few things that are just right out in front. And that's what we are genuinely trying to do here. So from the beginning, my first day, even on Planning Commission back in 2018, it's not going to be a speech, but it's going to get into the theory here. My edict on anything, and this goes for designing cars that don't kill people and save lives, is I want the best possible data for the best possible deliberation for the best possible outcome, full stop. That's it. And outside of that ethos is anecdote and incident. We cannot take a look at anecdotes and incidents and drive decisions based on that. And we can get into that outside of here. For example, have the number of accidents in adjacent communities and personal injuries gone up or down? Is the occupancy and vacancy rate of businesses, has that gone down from pre-COVID to post-COVID? I have answers on those and I'm not gonna divulge that here. We need to look in totality. We cannot look in incidents, particularly on store closures, which close for 1,000 reasons, and accidents. I can say for certainty there were 3 severe accidents when the roads were open earlier this year. There is another problem here of high-speed, dangerous driving, and it is not endemic to just Northville. It is everywhere. I am great friends with the chief of police of Warren and downriver in Woodhaven. This is something that is endemic. There's people that drive distracted, there's people that drive dangerously, and there's people that run stop signs. I am entirely empathetic to everything that's going on River and Wing and every other street, and that has to be addressed. In fact, I'll get into the policy part of this now. So in February, I had meetings with administration on the way forward on this, and I had 3 tenets and 3 principles. My 3 principles on this is we need to establish the best possible outcome for the community writ large. That's not one person, that's not one entity, it's for everybody in totality. We need to do this transparency, this number 2, transparently deliberate this and have it be accepted. At some point in a democracy, whatever side wins or loses has to accept an outcome. You have to remain governable even if you don't like decisions. Nobody will ever get 100% of their decisions. And I may not either, and I have not in the past, and that's okay. And that the outcome is stable. No matter what we do, the outcome for our downtown and the surrounding streets has to be stable so that we can develop safe travel measures through and around neighborhoods, that businesses can deploy capital as they see fit, whatever the streets may be. But if we keep lurching back and forth in a litigious nature against each other, there's no way you're going to meet those 3 pillars. Those 3 pillars are absolutely critical. So what did I ask for in February? I wanted the voice of the businesses downtown in a third-party format that was confidential and the business owners. I want that to happen before November. It can be after the election. It can be coincident with the election. I wanted an update on traffic data. And I have worked with the chief. The chief and I have worked frequently, and I hope he would agree, over the span of several months, going all the way back to 2019 to collect all crash data from this city south of 8 Mile in and around town since 2019, including the severity of every single reported accident. And I will publish that data and I'll get that out there. Unfortunately, I have a job and 3 kids and it gets really hard, but I think it's very important that we do get that out. And then I also, knowing that with what's coming on the roundabout, what's coming with what's going on in the downs, that we need to look at a minimum, passive measures on the adjacent streets, just like you'd see on 8 Mile, that would have some ability to knock down traffic. Because the other thing that I'm going to tell you that I think is absolute truth is the town and the world around us is built out so massively that I cannot, and nobody can ever promise you that traffic is going away. It's going to stay. We are Beck Road East in this town. Well, how do I say that? Northville Township has grown by 23,000 people since the beginning of 2000, and Beck Road is still 2 lanes. So where do you think they go? So we have to be very cognizant and careful of that. So when it comes down to the vote, the reason why I was supporting the vote is I wanted to get as many, a genuine attempt to collect the opinion of the community writ large because of the obvious passion that we have. I have seen, just like Councilmember Carter, note after note, meeting after meeting, face to face on, I want to vote, I want to do this. And I will also commit, by the way, that whatever the outcome is what I will support. It is my duty to reflect what the community wants, not what I want. When I start using the word I and what I want, then I shouldn't be sitting here. So if whatever the community decides is what I will support. And then lastly on this is the language around this has to be exceptionally tight. And the reason why it was already noted on is it has to be something where it reflects or links to a direct policy that was made before, in my opinion, so that we do not have referendum after referendum after referendum, because that'll gridlock this city in all the small resources that we have with the clerk and everything else. This has to be something that is extremely tight wall around it so that we can continue to govern. And like the Mayor Pro Tem said, if you don't like the way those 5 people govern, put in new people at some point. And that's the checks and balance on policy over time. And that's what we all signed up for. So finally then is I also will, for multiple reasons that were already covered, I will support one initiative for both streets because I believe they open common benefits and common challenges. So those present themselves on both equally. It is one district. It is one idea. It is one concept. It is one policy. And if you were to open one and not the other, I'm quite afraid of the, we'll say the nature of how that plays out might not be optimal. But with that, I will reinforce my desire as part of our strategic planning that we have to take a look at neighborhood safety. We have to look at speeds. And I'll tell you what, when the streets are open, there are still accidents and there's still people speeding, and we need to address that. That is independent of what we're doing here based on the data I have seen. And believe me, I have kids ride their bikes around this neighborhood. I am not dogmatic about this. I want the safest possible neighborhood as well. So with that, I think I'm on the record for what I want. So we need really tight language on one initiative. So thank you.
All right, so I'm the more emotional one up here, so I just want you to know mine is just gonna be what I think and we're good. This was gonna be real easy for me when I walked in here today and then to see all the people that are here. I appreciate it. It means something to you and it definitely means something to me. Mine is more not so much data driven, but the day-to-day driven. So I apologize if, you know, I think most of you know that's how I am. And I also want everyone to remember, after 200 years, most of the people in this room have gotten to sit back and enjoy the fruits of the labor of the people before us. Everything was kind of rolling along just fine. And now it's 2024. So we are here because everything's new now. We have to start from scratch with rules and regulations, and kind of here we are. So everybody's age and stage in life is, so right now, some people are chalk people, some people are street closures, some want them open because of their age and stage in life. For me, we have to remember that your kids might want to walk in town now, but eventually they're going to want to drive through town. Or you're going to be enjoying the street closures today, but in 2 months when the streets are still closed, you start travel baseball and you're never coming back again. So those are the emotional parts. I can tell you if saying yes to them being on the ballot helps with data, we need to get that because we don't have any. We just don't. And we can talk about it. We need it. This is what we need. So if that helps. Main and center, it's both or bust. I'm not gonna ever be one where we're gonna say one or the other. I wish this could not be such a quick decision, but it is. I will ask why it has to be on the ballot is because we couldn't come up with a middle ground. So I think that was a big one. And then I just hope that this, if it gets on the ballot, that the language, my only problem with not wanting it on the ballot is eventually we are going to have to make decisions too. So let's say in 2 years, if everyone votes close the streets in 2 years, what do we do next? So those are my worries. So here we go.
So I think most of the things that have been said early on, I said everything should be true, kind, and necessary. True, we have an outstanding community. It's because of each and every one of you, as we heard, all the businesses that have done so much. We were those businesses back in 1900 and 1960. Our time is gone. You know, my grandparents were here for 60 years. It's now the Genettis and the Orns and Dr. Demery doing just an outstanding job. True, as we know, the weekends are outstanding. I don't think anybody would question you on that. True, when we shut it down for COVID, that was the right thing to do. True, it was the right thing to go 6 months and 6 months. True, we put bollards in to be flexible in the future. So those are all true activities. Kind, I think we have to be kind to all the businesses on both streets. In my opinion, we have to be kind to the people that live on those streets next to it, Wing Street and River Street and Randolph and others. So I think about that each and every day. I've spoke to 287 people, probably 289 now tonight because a couple got me on the side. Mostly every business person. I kind of understand. I'm downtown every day for the last 5 years and the last 64 years. So we don't go outside of Northville to eat. We eat downtown every night. It's against the law in our house to go someplace out of the city of Northville. So I do understand what goes on a daily basis each one of us are down every day. So you educate us, we try to educate ourselves each and every day. So I am just a little bit different than the others. I'm always unique and exciting, but I would like, but I will roll. I would love to have two questions, Center Street and Main Street, to be kind to those people on those streets, which is unbelievable when the buses 40 or 50 come down Wing Street when those streets are closed. I see that and all that traffic. So from that standpoint, I just differ. I will roll, if that is the opinion of the group. But from that standpoint, I feel for the Wing Street, River, Randolph, others. So just know that is the reason why I would support the two streets. But I hear from my council members and I understand where they're going. I'm looking for additional traffic control measures. I'm doing everything I can to put another street going right into that sub off of Heinz Drive. It'll cost $5 million and we are finding that through grants right now. That will take some traffic away. We do have traffic coming. We have to get rid of some of that and have some traffic control so it doesn't all go through the city. So that is part of my job, kind of like what we're doing on 7 Mile and Sheldon. We have to have traffic measures. So I will roll. I will be open for language on this. And if it's one question, you can see why I'm looking at two, just because of traffic on the sub streets. We all get some of that. So that is my opinion. You've hit everything else. You said it very eloquently. Just know at the end of the day, we are in an outstanding community. I know we have a lot of opinions in here, and as I look around, I see 6 or 8 of you that wanted it on the ballot. I know I heard other things here tonight. In here, we are trying to listen to you too. So that is where we're at. That is my opinions. And everybody knows I'm not bashful on my opinions. You'll know where I stand, and that's where I'm standing tonight. And the council members know that too now. So with that, I'd like to transition and let's look at the language. You heard people talk about the language and got to make sure they know this is advisory. Got to make sure it's crystal clear that people know what they're voting for and the ramifications of that. It has to be clear. And we then have to take all that as a major data point. With that, I still want to make sure that we get all that data and input from DDA and the chamber and other groups before we make those final decisions. We will get this in the beginning of November. By the end of November, we will make a motion here to go forward or not, depending on what we do in downtown. So we will not wait very long after that comes out to us. So, okay. And I was supposed to be brilliant, brief, and be gone. I was here a little bit long.
Right,
so.
brief and gone.
Okay. So with that, I would like to transition to the language out there. And I think we have some language that council members have been rolling around with.
So
Council.
blame it on me.
Okay, go right ahead.
Okay, so I will read, but hopefully you will, this is like, I float the language, but I can even find fault with my own, right? So this is floating it as I wrote it, and I'm happy to critique my own work, what I would like to change. Joe, this is with one question. There's a question and then a single sentence. Should the city of Northville continue the seasonal closure of the single blocks of Main and Center Streets for a pedestrian only area from May through October? And then question mark. The seasonal closure area is Main Street from Center to Hutton and Center Street from Main to Dunlap. So in that, we define seasonal closure, the time period, but that's within the question. The second declarative sentence is defining the streets that are closed for clarity. We could wrap it into one question without a declarative sentence, but it becomes a really long sentence. So that's just a float. Does that, to float that out for discussion as a discussion point?
And I would just.
End point?
I would just point out, I think we were going to start off with the advisory question
Oh,
Yep,
I'm
yep,
sorry.
so just-
Yes, I
Poland on.
I did
Advisory
ask,
Commission call.
and got clarification from the attorney that we can. I think no matter what we do, people are still gonna understand this is non-binding, but to make it like sort of, we can put before any question, advisory question, capital A, capital Q, colon. So, versus just saying ballot question above it. Is that correct?
And
Tony?
Tony, you,
Yeah.
again,
So,
Just the terminology of advisory.
Yeah.
question.
brought us up
Start
to
out.
speed. It's advisory,
Yeah.
it's advisory bigger than Ben Hur.
yes, we need to make this reasonably formal, so we can't say, we just want to ask your
Right.
opinion on this. We can't do
Advisory.
something like that, nor can it be multiple choice.
That's
right?
legally in the
Must
state
be
too.
yes, no. So, anyway, I have other things to say, but I think I read that, and then, so I'd like you guys to tear it apart.
Okay.
So,
I'm sorry, were you suggesting that you want that included with the language that you read on the ballot?
oh, the advisory question.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So it would be capital advisory question, capital A, capital Q, colon, and then it would begin, so it'd be advisory question. And then the question begins, should the city of Northfield continue the seasonal closure of the single blocks of Main and Center Streets for a pedestrian only area from May through October? And then it defines the area. The seasonal closure area is Main Street from Center to Hutton and Center Street from Main to Dunlap. So I'm ready for you guys to tear it up. Set,
So,
help edit.
others.
I'm not gonna tear it up,
No, I'm asking.
but I want to go on record of saying I would like it to say Memorial through Labor weekends only.
Memorial Day to Labor Day.
I think that's all our little town can
Okay.
handle right now.
So
Okay.
you're suggesting, Laura, that rather than putting in our current policy, which is in place, you're suggesting a new policy. So would we have to then reframe I'm just asking. We couldn't have continue the seasonal closure of, how might we change that?
Let me ask that, could we put then Memorial Day to Labor Day? Could we place that? I know we don't want to be so specific. We can come back and
But we couldn't,
decide that
so
in November.
can we say that without, I'm just seeing how the edit would play out with the other parts of the sentence.
Okay.
Suggested edit, we'd have to take away the continue because we currently don't do, that's not our current policy.
I think that's correct.
Is that
yes.
correct? But no, I'm more so,
And we, Tony, theoretically in November could come back and say, we will go from Memorial Day to Labor Day with
Yes,
that advisement.
to make the policy consistent with whatever the outcome was.
Right.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
and then other,
So I'll reply. And at some point, I just would like some instruction on if there's a change of, let's say, the substance, as Councilmember Janetti did, like how we want to escalate that if we wanted to vote based on, let's say, introducing a new parameter or idea into the language as opposed to the wordsmithing.
I would assume it's just we're making a motion to amend.
Yeah. No, I know
Motion
it's
to
going to
amend
be
the ballot
amended,
question
but would you request that now, or do we just keep wordsmithing? For now, I'm going to say assume it's wordsmithing, and then we have the opportunity to comment on what is
Oh, I see
a
what you're
material change to the proposal.
so are you
Yes.
saying, asking,
I hope that's. the
Laura
clear
to
process.
sort of, just hold the thought of changing the parameters of the seasonal closure until we sort of refine language and then,
Well, Allow me to
what you're
see if I can thread this needle. Before we change the substance, let's see if we can block the language correctly, and then is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay.
Fair.
Oh.
Then in November, we may modify. the-
Yeah, so.
You could also, I mean, I think what you would do is at that point, you're saying you'd make a motion and look for a second.
Oh,
At that point,
I would-
but everyone's discussing it in a more collaborative way at this point is what you're proposing.
Got it.
So, yeah, so right, so I see two different things happening. One is just the structure of the language to make it as clear as possible. And then one would be a material change of the policy.
Okay.
So I'd say, if everybody's okay, stay on the structure of the language
Yes.
first.
Yes.
so would I need
Okay.
to move mine? I'm okay.
I did.
Leave it at that for now, as you're all discussing it.
And we could do that after it came out. So I have one thing too. I don't know if this is an added benefit or not. Look at with question one, do we really need to say the seasonal closure areas, Main Street and Center to Hutton and Center to Main to Dunlap? We say the one block of Main and one block of Center in the first sentence. I just put that out there. Do we Do we need to define exactly?
Well, so I'm going to respond because I
Okay,
wrote
yep,
this.
yep.
Because this is one thing that I would like to it is only one block, so I don't
Right.
want to just, so I either,
is
we
one block.
we say the single blocks, or we can take out the single
Right.
blocks and only define it. As much as it seems, I think when we're constructing this, we can assume nothing.
Okay,
So.
we're saying it
We
twice there.
cannot
You think?
assume that everyone
say it again.
understands that there's only one block between,
Okay,
Hutton and Maine that's closed. I think we just make we make an assumption that we need to be clear and what the parameters are around that.
okay.
And so-
We will be crystal because we say it twice, but I just put it out there.
Well, no, so as I said, so what you're saying, to accomplish that, what we could do is rather than repeating it, we could take out the seasonal closure of
The blocks.
Main and Center Streets for pedestrian only, and then the seasonal closure area is Main. Now, it wouldn't define that it's only one block.
Okay.
So I don't know, so we could either
Okay.
leave single block
putting it out
in
there.
or take single blocks out, and I
I
noticed the same thing.
I will roll. Okay.
I don't know which it is.
Others before we look at a motion to go forward. Anything
Well,
else to add?
it's just on the, let's say the technical wording, say if we agree with
Technical
that,
wording.
and then we
Yep.
could maybe get into
Yep,
if we
that's
want to
correct.
do a material change would be my recommendation.
Yep.
So I think I would accept that because I think it's technical. I think it's sterile. It is a yes, no
Mhm.
with a clear mapping. I hope that it's clear. I'm trying to discern any way that would be like a double entendre of some kind or whatever, but it's, I took
Look at you.
Paris Olympics, right? I just want to be absolutely the least amount of complexity that we can, because it needs to be broadly understood. And I think that would be it. But I'm open to what the rest of
Very
council,
basic.
and I won't use any more French words.
Okay, please don't. We. Others on the structure.
I actually like the language that's in place, or the recommended proposed language. I think
Say it,
it's
say it
simpler, easier
again.
to
Everybody will
understand.
know. Okay.
I do like being able to say continue, because I feel like there has been so much confusion that just kind of saying we're evaluating yes or no based on the decision that's been made is a good thing. I'm not overly stressed about I think having from Center to Hutton, Maine to Dunlap, I think that's an important clarifier.
Okay.
I'm not overly stressed on whether we say single block and that. I think people will figure it out.
It's just, everyone thinks, we're all so confused, right? That's the big thing. So the word continue, it does, people are continue what? Opening and closing, they have that. So the word continue is like a little, I don't know,
'Cause people
especially
don't know what
with
it
such clarifying on where and.
Well, it could be, let's see, to deal with that. So continue the policy of the seasonal closure. I mean, do we need to say it's a policy? I think I had that in there once and I'm like, this is getting too long.
Should the city.
Because then we're stating it's a policy,
Seasonal closure.
current practice.
Will you read it again, Barb?
As it stands?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't like listening to myself, but should the city of Northville continue the seasonal closure of the single blocks of Main and Center Streets for a pedestrian-only area from May through October? ? The seasonal closure area is Main Street from Center to Hutton and Center Street from Main to Dunlap. And I omitted that the beginning starts with advisory question. I'm sorry. So, yes.
And you would like, and we're talking in general, continue versus support the seasonal. You'd like to say continue, so what it is today? Is that should the city of Northville, you're asking, you had a problem with continue.
I like
Would it be
what did you
support?
just say? Support.
Support the seasonal closure of blah, blah, blah.
Well, we have to change the beginning because the city doesn't support, should the city
Correct.
support?
Support's a bad word. I get it. I know.
Okay, I'm just trying to.
No,
help you over
no,
there.
I'm not saying it's a bad word. I'm just saying it couldn't be should the city of Northville support. It would have, the preamble would have to be different.
Okay.
I like it as is.
Okay, I'll
I
roll
think
on
we're getting
creative.
creative
Yeah,
and
we are.
talking
You're seeing the
ourselves in
sausage
circles.
being made. That's okay.
I think you're right.
Okay.
We have to close this wall
Okay,
tight. Is that
want to go on? Any other additions there?
Is there any technical?
Anything
issues
else?
with the structure of the single question?
No, this is one that I have reviewed previously and I think that this makes sense.
Okay. With advisory question in front of it. so-
Correct.
So let me put this out there because I was on the minority on this. Everybody would like a single question versus two questions.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
yes, okay. You can see my reasoning. We have to stay kind to everybody, but I understand. I will roll to that.
There's no easy answer.
There's no easy answer, but just wanted to make sure. Got you. I will roll to that and not have two separate questions and have one. Okay. Anything else for wording now?
So those the technical wording
Those
you
are
want to get,
technical.
okay, should we get into, let's say,
I have one.
Yes.
You want to go? Because
no, please.
I know, I agree where you're going, because I think we want to put a button on this one to
Well-
go to your next part, but I have a question.
Please do, please do.
For our
You start.
city attorney. So this makes it very clear it's May to October, which is the intent. But if we look back to our motion, I constructed,
Mhm.
back in April of 2023, our current policy technically to allow us flexibility is the seasonal closure is late April to early November. Now, we did that with the intent, we wanted to have it closed, like not open it till early, 1st of May. But we wanted to allow for any logistics of closure, business, logistics of that occurring. And also that there's a lot of action going down October 31st on Halloween, so that it could happen right after. So it's not technically, we allow that flexibility for city administration on the back end of each of those time, or the front end and back end. Is it okay that we construct it with May to October, which is the intent of that late April, early November?
Yeah, I think that's.
Is it okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't.
Let me ask you
Okay,
this
I
too,
just- since
Tony.
I constructed that motion and I just want to.
On that, on timing. We tagged into that. We've heard a couple, Memorial Day to Labor Day. Could we ever on our November, okay, let's say this got voted in and it's on both streets. Just one question. I'm just going forward here. Can we change that motion or that date when we have our November meeting, after we get all this advisory information and we have other discussions, it's going to be shut down for the summer. We have to find the beginning and the end date. And I heard Councilperson Janae say Memorial Day to Labor Day. I'm not saying we're going to go in that, but can we change it a week or two, or if we put these words in there?
Yeah, I think,
Yes.
this is
I believe.
completely advisory, and so it is not binding.
Okay.
And each year, if there are special circumstances, it can. the
We'll have major
administration can act
discussions in
independent.
November on that.
Yeah,
Okay,
and that's a key point because this isn't and shouldn't be static.
correct.
And so I think it needs to be a check-in on where we are today.
Right.
And that's what the advisory part is. And if, let's say it goes towards no, then I've already committed that I need to react that
Right.
way. And so has another council member. So in some way, yes, it's advisory, but in another way, we need to reflect the will of the community.
Correct.
However, if the community supports it, I'm full on supporting it. And so then after that, what I'm committed to is collecting data, and we have to have the discussion. I'm an
Right.
engineer. It's a broken record.
Okay.
I do
Yep.
not want us to arbitrarily pick dates out of a hat.
Correct.
That is the
We'll
wrong
have
answer.
5-6 data points and people
But
coming
it
in and
could
line.
mean, Mayor, and I'm with you on this front, is maybe 2 years from now, the right answer is it just doesn't work on the tail ends and we have to have course correct. We are entirely in our purview to do that.
Okay, yes,
That's the way I see it, Tony. Is that fair?
okay,
That is all correct.
And-
Okay,
And this is a
good.
hypothetical I'm sharing here. I'm not projecting it,
nope.
it's your opinion.
understand.
And I think that that's okay.
I hear
Is
what you're
that
saying.
fair?
It's fair.
It's fair.
It's
Okay.
fair. It's why yeah.
And I haven't commented on this part of it. I think it would be, and I only can speak for myself as an elected official and what I see in the way I view governance is with an advisory question of this nature and is that I would be reckless to say whatever the outcome of this is, that means that is how
You're right.
everything is done from then on, and I'm going to only follow that. And let
Be
me tell you
flexible.
what and I'm gonna actually do a scenario. So let's say that it is, that it's a yes, majority yes, right? Whatever, and it's a strong majority. Let's say something which I don't think would happen. 90% yes, 10% no. I don't think I don't even know what it's gonna be, but let's just assume that. And then time goes on, and whether it has to do with traffic, it has to do with the economy, business, any number of issues. I could never say, everybody said, keep those seasonal closures. So I'm rigid, and and I would say, no, I've got new information that I know this was, but I can't just consider that. That is not governance to me. I have to consider a lot of information and many stakeholders.
Data points.
And the other critical part is this advisory question only goes to is for registered voters in the city of Northville. So persons that live here that are not registered to vote, either because they're foreign nationals, they cannot, or they choose another state that they live in 6 months a year, snowbird or whatever, those persons cannot vote. So that's number one. Number two, business owners and building owners cannot vote unless they're a registered voter in the city of Northville. They're critical stakeholders in this. So they're not, some of them do live in the city, but many do not. And so I just want to be clear.
Getting back to those
that,
data
right,
points of
that
business
this is-
people, DDA and
And
chamber.
I'm not being wishy-washy here. I'm saying that from a governance standpoint, it could only be informational, and I would feel reckless to say, and this, I could think of another scenario if it went the other way. People
Yes.
said. So I just want to be clear, but that's just reflecting the way I'm viewing governance, and I don't want to overlay that on my fellow city council members.
Good. Wording.
And I guess just responding, because I did know that I would follow. I see your point. And if new data becomes available, that can be a conversation. I guess where I was going earlier is we're going to be presented with data at the end of this. And then I think we drive based off of that.
Yes.
Oh,
At the end of the vote.
oh, I don't mean
Yeah.
that it's not considered
We're-
at all. Yeah, you're right, John. I don't.
Wording wise, I've already said it.
Good.
I'm comfortable with proposed amended language here. I think that that's
Comfortable with the
improvement
wording?
over what
So,
we
Mayor,
did
yeah,
before.
the wording is good. I also made it clear that we need to put the tightest box on it, and that the language needs to reflect directly back to the policy that it's being, the advisory vote is referring to. I think I spoke in a circle there, but I want to refer to a specific policy that we voted on and not introduce anything new. And you have my commitment over time that even if this passes, we will continue to look at this long term and see if it's the right answer or not. We are not dogmatic about this. It will be data driven. So that's where I'm at. So to me, the language has to remain with the dates that are on there.
Substance though here, I just
Referring back to the
want to.
policy in question.
I just want to confirm, because we're getting into the semantics on the language. The most important change that's coming from this is moving from 2 streets to 1. Do we have alignment?
Two questions to one.
Or 2 questions to 1?
I said
Sorry.
I will
Do we have
roll.
alignment
I'm
on
pretty
that?
strong on 2, but I hear the other council members would like the language on 1. So I hear what you're saying. I'm trying to be kind to everybody around on those streets, but I will roll to 1 question.
Okay.
Get-
And I'd like to just, Laura, I want to just fill you out a little bit. Your thoughts. It sounds like your preference would be to put together language that would basically introduce a new policy. I know, so that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And I get that.
And I
But-
know that, but like he said, and I know I trust you guys that, once we get this data, which is what would we be doing this for, you would come back. None of us know what the outcome's gonna be. We all talk to people.
Right, we don't
they
know.
Tell us
But
what we want.
I
Right.
work it's horrible. I
Right.
work different scenarios. What if it's this? What if it's
I
that?
know.
What if we get that? I don't know what it's gonna, I have no clue.
Then
I
come
just
back and
feel-
make that final decision.
I just, and I get it, what we think we need to offer, but what the town can actually offer to this vote is what I worry about. And that's where I.
And one
go.
data
I have
point,
a
that
guess.
advisory
That's all I
group
have is
that
a
just
guess.
met while we were downstairs, that is another data point. You know, that is a data point. You're going to give us a lot of opinions and others are giving us different facts. You will try to back that up.
I just
but
don't
that
know
is a data point.
how other than this, we would gather data,
Mhm. Yep.
because we haven't yet.
Yeah, not since the survey.
Could be
back
old
in
data.
May
I
of-
mean,
Not in the survey.
And
of
maybe
May
we have to be
2022.
flexible to go forward. That's why we have bollards and other things out there. Good.
Mhm.
Okay,
Thank you
so,
though, Barbara. I
Yep.
appreciate that, because I do, it's like what I dream
and
about.
we will have this discussion in November, exactly when we start, when we end
Laura.
to, if it goes in that direction. So it'll be another exciting meeting like this sometime in November, exactly when we start, exactly when we end and the whole bit, depending on where this outcome might go on the ballot. So, and we appreciate everybody's input in here. You'll continue that, but we will have a meeting like this and hopefully these advisory meetings too.
Do we need a motion to amend then, or are we? in that
So
position?
we had a motion
I'm
on,
going to read language and then.
Yep.
So, yeah, so there's two ways we can go about this. Either you can vote down the motion that has been moved and seconded, or you can make a motion to amend that motion. That
let's do that.
would be then voted on, and then you would have the amended motion before you. So then you would vote on the
Can
motion.
the motion be withdrawn?
It could also be withdrawn.
Okay, I just want.
Yeah, by the maker and the seconder. If they agree to that, it could be as well.
But we have a motion. We can do the amended motion. Do you have that?
Someone could just make a motion. I mean, they can say, make a motion to approve the following language. I can read the language and then they can get a second.
Motion to amend the motion to have that language.
Yes,
That was
exactly.
referenced
After the
by
discussion of making the
pro
sausage.
temp.
And do you
And then-
have that?
Yep.
And then that has to be approved, okayed by the person for the initial motion and the seconded person.
No, because it's a motion. It's a group motion at that point.
Motion
The
to
second
amend, we
motion
would all
would be
vote on it.
to amend it, and then you go back to the original motion and vote.
Yeah.
On the whole thing.
We already approved the original motion. We will
amended motion-
approve the amended.
The motion is on the floor right now.
Correct.
You'd
Yeah.
make a motion to amend it, get a second, we'd vote on that, then you go back to the original motion and vote on it.
The sausage. So do you have the language?
Yeah, you want me to read it quickly?
Why don't you read the language and so everybody understands this is what we just talked about. He is not making that motion. One of you
No, I will
will do
I'm
it,
just
but
reading
you
it.
are reading the motion.
So advisory question, should the city of Northville continue the seasonal closure of the single blocks of Main and Center Streets for a pedestrian-only area from May through October? The seasonal closure area is Main Street from Center to Hutton and Center Street from Main to Dunlap.
So that is one question, not the two anymore.
Just for the clerk.
Yep.
There's a question mark and a period. So does he,
Yep.
you know where those are? Okay.
Got it. Question mark
and a
in the
colon.
period
And
and a colon. I know, it's all about the colon. We're getting older. Okay, good.
Oxford.
Okay, so we have that motion. I would like somebody to say,
Someone has to make. the
So I
motion, right?
move
As so
I
moved.
move to amend the previous motion
okay,
as stated.
okay. And you have that? You wrote it down? Colons, periods, everything. Good.
Question marks.
Question marks. So I have a motion on the table. I'm looking for support of that motion.
Support.
Support. Any other discussion? We had plenty. Okay, I'd like a roll call vote on this, please.
Morosky Brown,
No.
Turnbull,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Janetti,
Yes.
Kranz.
Yes.
Yes.
That was the amendment.
That was the amended.
Then-
Now you do now you go on the original motion with the
Okay.
amended language.
Okay, so now we go to the original motion. And I would like.
It's
And
amended.
amended.
Yeah.
Correct.
So now you're voting.
I want a
on
roll
the
call
amended
vote.
motion.
We're just, this is the first half of the second half. Go ahead.
Do you want me to read that?
Yes.
Does everyone
Yes,
know?
why don't you read that?
All right.
Because we amended what you're reading right now.
Here's the amended. I move to approve the placement of the ballot question on the November 5th, 2024 ballot and further direct the city clerk, city manager, and city attorney to do everything necessary to effectuate that placement. Wording of the ballot initiative will be as follows. Should the city of Northville continue the seasonal closure of the single blocks of Main and Center Streets for a pedestrian-only area from May through October? The seasonal closure area is Main Street from Center to Hutton and Center Street from Main to Dunlap.
I'd like to put a friendly amendment for advisory question.
Oh, yes, please, accept it.
Yep. Correct?
Correct.
Correct.
With all
I saw you got
punctuation.
excited on that. And you got the punctuation right. We will get that.
Colons, commas, and question marks. Yeah.
So we have that motion. We have support for that. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Any other discussion on that? Roll call vote on that.
No, I just want to, just
Okay, go right ahead.
minor discussion.
Yes.
It's going to seem so odd in the vote, but I'm comfortable with the language of the ballot, but because I don't think the ballot it should be on there because of charter, et cetera. So I am, so you'll see.
Yep.
It's going to seem inconsistent, but it's not based.
Okay. And Tony, your legal opinion, it is in our rights and
Yeah.
purview to do
As I
that.
said,
Is that
it's my-
correct?
but
From our
my
legal
belief.
correct?
It's
Okay.
my belief. Yeah.
Okay.
Interpretation.
Great. So we have a motion properly supported, had other discussion. If you could do a roll call vote on that.
Just so I'm clear, the motion was by Carter and support was by Krenz.
Yes.
Yes.
We start with Turnbull,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Janetti,
Yes.
Krenz,
Yes.
Morosky Brown.
No.
Great. So we have motions, we have language, we will put it on the ballot. We will work tremendously with Wayne County and Oakland County, which I have already. It's not a slam dunk, it'll be on there because they have a lot to do between now and next Tuesday. So that is why we got together today, because if we got together Monday, we'd have 24 hours to get it on the ballot. So we will work with them. You will work with them. I've been working with them. Unfortunately, I'm in committees on both counties. This is not a good time because I will be working with the people that, okay, let's just go fast. So from there, thank you very much for being here tonight. In closing, again, I thank you all for being here. This is the last, sign off. Thank you for being on these committees, these task force. Appreciate you. Looking forward to what Norfolk can be. We have almost 6% of all of our citizens on task force for the betterment of the community. We have the chair of the cemetery committee and we have others in here. As I look out there, half of you are on committees. Thank you. We can't do without you. Thank you for making Norfolk what it is and for the investments that you do, time, energy, and financials. Others.
I would just like to thank everyone. Well, thank everyone for their passion and caring and being here, and also apologize for those that wanted to watch it remotely and could not. Sometimes our city council meetings are, please bring popcorn.
Yep.
So this is one of those meetings.
A lot of wine.
It was long. No, we can't.
I know.
So
At
it was
home.
long. So thank you all. I'd also really want to say that I share concerns that I think we need to take some action and consideration on Wing. We need to look at some things on Hutton. I know there's already been things looked at on South Rogers. I've received positive feedback. So I would like to let the city manager know that I would like to help advocate. Particularly, I think the easiest to pick now is to get a process is Wing Street, because we already have some recommendations on traffic remediation on Wing Street, both reducing traffic and slowing it down. So we already have from our experts some recommendations, but as the city administration has determined wisely, is you cannot force some sort of remediation on a street or community. So they need to be involved in that process. And there's actually a petition where they make the request. And Wing Street's right for that because we already have it. So I'd like to say I'd like to be an advocate and involved with that. And if it means going door to door with something for people on that one block of Wing Street between the post office and Fairbrook, that would be a good place to start to implement what we've wanted to take looks at for a long time.
Absolutely. John, anything?
I don't think anybody wants to hear me talk about the streets anymore.
Okay.
But I do have we got some good news that I want to highlight. For our friends at Allen Terrace, we have put in new flooring in all of the units thanks to a CDBG grant. We put in a new key fob system. The Allen Terrace building won a beautification award, which was a great moment because our commissioners and our residents came together to do all the planting. And then the last item is there's a new gym going in or update to the gym at Allen Terrace, which is going to feature a new TV, but also thanks to our friends at Planet Fitness, we'll have all new equipment, which is a life-changing moment for a lot of the people in that building. So
we're getting it ready for all of you.
something really exciting that, we can't miss some of the good that's happening.
Orange getting in line for Alan. Okay, good.
Oh,
Excellent.
that's wonderful. Yeah.
Anything?
No, the only thing I have to say is the garbage pickup is getting better.
It is.
So
A
there
lot
we
of
go.
questions. There's 73 communities with that and we have been with them and we think it is getting better now, but it's just not us.
They're doing all right.
Great opportunity.
Perfect.
Go ahead.
No, I'll just co-sign with what the Mayor Pro Tem said. I've said from the beginning, I've said from February, what can we done on adjacent streets? with, especially with the buildup in communities around us. I want to see action taken. What can we do? And then at that point, we look at it and see if we have intractable problems or not. That has not occurred yet. So we have to make that happen. And then I also want to have very quick discussion on how we can do a survey among businesses and business owners through a third party and collect that data to bring it all together in November, which I think is what we owe the community. And with that, I'm all
Great.
set, Mayor.
Motion for adjournment. Do I have that motion? Do I have a second? Oh,
Bye, Michigan
bye,
now.
Michigan now, God forbid.
Bye,
This
Michigan
weekend,
now.
I just wrote the letter today.
Election
Bye,
is on
Michigan now,
Tuesday.
this weekend, it should be a rock and roll area downtown. They got bands going on. They got kids zones. They got a lot of activities. Thank you very much. Usually I say that. I just wanted to get out of here. So
Motion
with
to
that-
adjourn.
Vote on.
The support, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? We are done.
I tried, Mike.